I just wanted to enjoy a smoke, but these monsters keep showing up. Seriously. How did I end up in this crazy place? The demon god was just bored. So he made a world called Halation, just for kicks and to watch battles. Honestly, I think he's pretty let down. In the last 10 minutes, he saw me crying because I couldn't light my cigarette and almost got taken out by an angry rabbit. Even the other humans don't give me any respect. I'm treated like garbage here, but I've got a plan to get stronger. The key is in the monsters. I need to take out as many as I can. I can trade their eyes and teeth for points worth more than cash, but what I really want is their hearts. Inside them is a core that boosts my stats when I eat it. Even though it tastes terrible and feels cheap, like burnt rubber soaked in cough syrup, it permanently makes me stronger. I'll get stronger by devouring them, and one day, I'll get back at those jerks who tossed me here. I'll have my revenge on the demon god. It'll be brutal, but my stomach issues will be even worse. I know all this because I got lucky and found a teacher. He's got no arms, so I have to feed him and even light his cigarette. I rescued him a while back in the woods, and now he's teaching me everything he knows. I'm basically his personal lighter now. Today, when I went to sell some stuff, I ran into the warrior Lee Sojun. He's a super strong high ranker. He had some rare monsters and their hearts displayed like trophies. I really wished I could eat one of those cores. How many levels could I gain? What would a monster like that even be worth in points? Would it taste like burnt rubber? Right now, my cabin away from the city costs me 8,000 points, so I have to head into the city to sell my monster loot. More specifically, to the central tower in Muddy Village. That's where the city's main admin, the demon Krista, is. With just a snap, he activates the marks on everyone's hearts in Halcyon. That's how they keep track of points, and before I knew it, everything I worked hard to collect was sold off. It was so little that the demon actually laughed at me. But one day, I'll take him down, even if it's just from laughing too hard. So I need to get back to hunting. I won't get stronger just by hating them. I need to consume as much as I can. This core affects people differently. According to my master, most people gain about 0.6 experience a day. Our protagonist only gets 0.02 experience per goblin core. Right now, there are 4 starting attributes, and everyone begins at level 7, which can go up to 1, the highest. For our underdog who's not in any clan, he needs to eat at least 50 goblins a day just to keep up. So he goes back to hunting, taking down tons of monsters every day. It's been 3 weeks since he started this grind. His sword was already worn out. While he was considering buying a new one, something appeared behind him. The monster attacked quickly. "Were you the one who slaughtered my people?" he asked. It was the first time the protagonist had seen a talking monster, and sadly, there was no mute button. "You've probably never seen a goblin like me," he said. This was the goblin's defender, Chief Karakra. Only then did the boy recall that his master had warned him about smart monsters, but hadn't said anything about them being arrogant. The goblin wanted him dead at any cost. Not only was he quick, but he was also really strong. Karakra even teased the boy for being weak. He had high hopes since many of his buddies had fallen to him, but he figured he could take down this human with just his fists. The boy found it odd that he spoke like a human, considering he was from this world. The goblin, curious, asks what he means. The truth is, over the past 3 weeks, he's hunted between 40 and 60 goblins every day, adding up to over 1,000. This forest is tiny, and there isn't even a single goblin home. So how can there be so many every day? Is Karakra just cranking out goblins or what? The boy is suggesting that they're just monsters that keep coming back. Out of nowhere, the goblin bursts into uncontrollable laughter. He laughs so hard that the boy's ears start to ring. The goblin claims he's not just another disposable monster, but he doesn't want to discuss it. Then he tells the boy to be quiet and says he'll reward him if he can actually hurt him. Basically, he'll need to beat him to find out anything. The boy charges in with everything he's got, using the dagger like a sword, trying to find an opening. But the monster was really clever, so the boy decides to switch up his attack, but the goblin easily blocks it and even counters. At that moment, the boy insists he should earn his reward. The goblin laughs and says this is finally getting interesting. In the blink of an eye, he appears right in front of the boy. He was way faster now. He quickly reached the boy and hit him multiple times, sending him crashing into a tree, which definitely won that round. Several ribs got broken. The monster was pumped about the fight and was ready to land the final blow, but the boy ran with all his might. He needed to find out about the demons, so he went back to trading blows with the monster, forcing it to retreat. The goblin was curious about how the boy was still going despite his broken ribs and hurt left arm. Once again, he asked how the goblin ended up in Halcyon. The monster, pumped up from the fight, claims he'll spill the beans while they battle, but the truth is, He wasn't pulled into this world. He came here on his own. He was hired by some demons. Basically, he's a mercenary, a freelance bad guy. When the boy hears this, he starts pleading for a way out. At that moment, the monster thought the boy had let his guard down. But then he got a hard kick to the stomach and several dagger stabs. The monster actually bled and tried to fight back. But the boy was focused and plunged his dagger right into the monster's chest. That was it. The goblin chief had truly been defeated, but he wasn't dead yet, and decided to spill everything. He revealed he was tricked by the demons and got stuck there. Thanks to a fake contract as a mercenary, he can't go back home. Realizing he couldn't get more info from the goblin, the boy said he was leaving, but the monster insisted on his reward and promised to give him some advice. So the boy offered him a cigarette, and surprisingly, the monster actually smoked with him. The guy spent the whole time smoking, and now wants to get the monster hooked too. Back at the tower, the demon kept mocking him. The hero asked for some treatment. The demon agreed for 10,000 points and started healing him, using a little spell on each wound. The one with the black wings figured the adventure must have earned a lot, since there was no usual complaint about the cost. Our hero then handed the demon a bag, curious about what he could do with its contents. The admin knew those weren't regular materials, but even he was shocked to see they were from the powerful goblin chief the young man had taken down. But the human didn't catch the demon's response as he urged him to show his options. With a quick snap of the demon's fingers, a window popped up in front of our hero. As he was about to pick from the many options, he recalled his recent encounter when the strong warrior asked to be devoured, wondering if his killer, like the other goblins, knew the secret method that he didn't. Cha Muyuk confirmed he did, but still had his doubts. The goblin chief quickly realized the young man's hesitation came from his unusual human traits, which made sense given humanity's way of thinking. He told him not to worry about it, saying it was an honor to become part of his killer. The dying monster urged the protagonist to use his whole body, even as the young man still had his doubts. The monster shared that his nails were super valuable because they were known for their toughness in his family. With that, the human had to accept it and thank the dying goblin. Karakura apologized for dragging the protagonist into his strange fantasies one last time before he passed on. Back in the moment, as the young man looked at the panel showing that the chief's lens could boost his vision, he realized again how the goblin got what he wanted. Even though he was a monster, he was the only one besides his master who could talk to him. As he thought about how the chief goblin felt more like a buddy, he asked the demon to give him its eyes and teeth, and wondered if it could also do the same with its nails. The demon said it could, and when he asked if it could be customized to fit, it replied that anything was possible with enough cash. With that, the young man felt grateful to the goblin who became part of him. Later that night, Cha Muyu admired his Wolverine-like claws, prompting his master to tease him for being a nerd. When asked if the claws were a weird transplant, the armless one said no, as they were perfect for sneak attacks. Chao Muyu then regretted spending so many points to add his friend's remains to his body. These 7-ranked weapons, known for their hardness and sharpness, can't be restored after evolving with their owner. The master asked the students if Karakura had a core, and he confirmed it. As he pointed this out to his student, he realized it must have given him a lot of experience. He noticed how distant his thoughts seemed. Noticing something was bothering his student, the man decided to chat about it during a smoke break. He explained how proud chief goblins are and that it was his disciple's first time fighting a clever monster. He mentioned that the young man would encounter even more on his journey and could have real conversations with them, like the one he had with the goblin chief. Seeing the young man shocked that he knew about his talk with the monster revealed a lot. He then advised the student not to hesitate when it comes to killing for progress, just like the goblin chief must have told him. The master explained that even though it feels bad to kill a creature with a heart, it's necessary on this continent, as trust and mercy can lead to a terrible defeat, using himself as an example. Yet as the young one grew worried, the armless plan reminded him to be proud of his victory and to live to share his story, and that the claws in his hands were proof he was a warrior. According to the master, his disciple had every reason to be proud. Feeling flattered, he thanked his teacher for the kind words. When asked about his growth level, the young one said it exceeded all his expectations. The next day, the claws were put to the test. Out there, he charged right ahead, before slashing a goblin with his new weapon, leaving it in a lot of pain. Ultimately, Korean Wolverine shook the blood off his claws, splattering blue all over the ground. After absorbing the goblin chief, The protagonist's HP and strength increased by 10%. Later, in the same hunting grounds, Cha Mu-yu realized he was slowly getting used to his new transplant, as these names were truly becoming part of him. The guy was stunned to realize he felt no pain using the claws and had full control over their power. Just as he was contemplating how to gain strength to meet the expectations of his master and the goblin chief, someone suddenly called out to him. The bully was back, saying it was nice to see him again. When the hero asked how he knew where he was, the bully insisted he wasn't stalking him. He just stopped by to say hello. He then claimed the hero didn't go to many places and hadn't found any monsters to hunt, which is why he was out for a walk and ran into him. This really ticked off the protagonist. The body decided to focus on more important issues. After hearing rumors about him taking down a strong enemy, Cha Mu-yuk treated the bully like a stalker again, thinking his secret weapon had been seen. But Bae Young-chul got straight to the point, revealing that the administrator had told him this, and he was sure the big catch didn't really benefit the young man much. The Goblin Slayer was left fuming at Krusta. What a relief that the bully hadn't noticed his Wolverine claws. The kid quickly grabbed the hero and asked for a cut of his reward, sparking his curiosity. Bae Young-chul reminded him that there were less than 6 days left, and how he treated the protagonist depended on how the protagonist treated him, so he suggested they stay good friends. After saying they should meet again after choosing their classes, the bully finally took off. This left our hero seething, to the point he wanted to stab him in the back with his new claws, but he quickly dismissed the thought. The young man was surprised at how angry he got, reminding himself it was impossible to kill the bully, who was backed by a guild. Even though this place felt like a game, losing an arm or a leg was still a real risk since HP didn't exist. And even though he could sneak attack, he had to hold off. In 6 days, the adventurers would have been on the continent for 5 months, and would need to choose a class to become official residents. This would give the adventurers new stats, like magic power, and let them use skills. But these awesome abilities came with serious downsides, meaning those in round 13 could end up killing each other. Right now, these adventurers couldn't kill each other because of the demon well, but after 6 days, killing and stealing would become essential. Those who had been in the continent the longest were usually the safest, but even they only had a year, as the protection would eventually wear off. Our protagonist, without a clan or guild, decided to leverage his connections with his master and the goblin chief to get stronger for survival. To gain power, he first needed to prove himself with his valor and claws. When the monster known as Patris spotted him, the young man thought about how this giant frog-like creature used its poisonous tongue for attacks and had incredible speed and jumping skills. It was tough to kill and also lacked a core, which the hunter had always avoided. Today, he found himself facing that giant tongue, planning to use it as a target for his new weapon. With that, the young man jumped in and barely dodged the poisonous tongue. He grinned as his theory was proven right. The protagonist who cut the venomous tongue could now predict its attack pattern. As a result, Patris was in a lot of pain. Plus, the giant human decided to finish off the giant frog before it could fight back. Just as he was about to land the final hit, the giant frog leaped into the air, soaring high. It then repositioned itself and came crashing down like a meteor, trying to swallow him whole. Surprised by the speed, the young man realized he should retreat, but he quickly shook off that thought, trusting in the goblin chief's gift, and stood his ground. Before leaping into the air to charge at the approaching toad, the human and monster were now face to face, and just like that, the final showdown began. With that, the toad lay still. Its lifeless body was next to our hero. He was still amazed that he had won a one-on-one fight. Those claws had turned out to be way more powerful and precise than he thought. This made him acknowledge the goblin chief's strength again. The young man, confident in his new weapon and future class, had something important to take care of first. What he needed to do was vital for his growth, and required intense focus for his teacher and fallen friend. 6 days had gone by. Our hero stood before the selection tower to choose his class, and even though it seemed simple, he felt anxious. Still, he decided to walk through the tower's huge gates. Rumor had it that the one who would assign his class wasn't the general administrator, even though the inside of the tower looked like his territory. Just then, the Wolverine noticed something strange. A mysterious dark gift box appeared before him. Seeing it, the hero started to wonder if he should open it or not. After a moment of thought, he chose to give in to curiosity. As he opened it, A bizarre shape emerged from the box, before a huge explosion. Suddenly, our hero was face to face with a giant, grinning entity. This kind of demon was one of the most hated by the protagonist. A plant field beckoned the young man to come closer. The creature introduced itself as Jack-in-the-Box, and welcomed the hero to what it called the first blessing ceremony. Jack then asked the young guy what he thought about his sudden appearance, but a confused Cha Muyukuk questioned if all its kind started conversations like that. The clown explained that his brand of humor was essential for all demons, then burst out laughing when the hero said he didn't have time for games and wanted to get to the point. So, he decided to grant the young man's wish. The clown then offered the Goblin Slayer a bunch of class options. Jack selected the classes he thought would interest our hero the most, telling him to stop twice on the panel of his choice. The protagonist, frustrated by the demon's library, struggled to pick what he wanted, even though he had already made up his mind. Even though class wasn't the most important thing, you still had to be careful when choosing one, since each class came with a unique perk called Colonial Privilege, and Murder was the most popular choice. This was because it boosted Strength, the key stat on this continent, with many top names having picked it. Our hero knew that if he became a marauder like his mentor, he could benefit from his experience. Still, he chose a different class, Hunter. Jack praised the young man for his choice, and said he'd start the process right away. With the spell being cast, the young man was forever changed. Cha Mu-yuk was left in shock, having officially become a resident of the continent, with double the heads and 3 skills specific to his new class. Plus, he gained the magic power stat. The annoying creature then asked if he was happy with his choice, to which he replied that he still needed to test it. Our hero figured that having double heads would let him double his growth rate for HP when eating goblin cores, then looked at his magic stat. Seeing it was nothing special, he thought he'd need to eat a lot of cores to boost it. While pondering how this new stat would impact his skills, Jack reminded him he still needed to pick a unique skill. As the demon explained this was the best blessing for beginners and started listing skills, our hero asked for Camouflage of the Jeweled Lizard. This caught Jack's interest. So our hero repeated his choice. The demon tried to argue that there were plenty of other options, but the young man stood firm on his decision. The amused clown agreed to grant his wish, warning him not to regret it later. Just like that, Chow Mujiak got the skill he asked for. Jack then asked the young man why he made that choice, but when he saw the hero was hesitant to answer, the clown assured him he wasn't forced to before suddenly changing his form. The entity looked angry. As it transformed, 3 extra eyes appeared. Jack claimed his curiosity would be satisfied, and that the young man had to answer honestly. The intimidating demon reminded the young man to always show respect to their superior race. Yet the unfazed hero asked if the entity was really set on hearing his honest answer. The giant demon then returned to his original form, cracking his usual smile and saying the young man should chill out since he was just messing around. Chow Mu-hyu couldn't help but feel angry. Jack complimented the young man for surviving this long, but warned that the real challenges were just beginning. After that, he picked his class and watched as the demon said goodbye to his friend, wishing him well. Finally, the young man stepped out of the tower. After a bit, he wandered into a small alley in a village. Our hero started sweating as he tried to catch his breath. The protagonist thought he was done for, feeling more overwhelmed than ever. This made him curious about the presence of stronger demons, especially since the class selection one was so intimidating. With that in mind, the protagonist started to doubt whether he could handle the demons and escape the chaos they caused. That night, his master was intrigued by the unique skill his student had chosen. Still, the young man stood by his decision. When asked if he understood why the first unique skill was so important, he confidently said he did. Besides the one given during class selection, the only real way for an adventurer to gain a skill is by finding it, either through purchase or from a defeated monster, with its value tied to its rarity. However, given how high their costs are compared to their usefulness, the best strategy is to earn them while hunting. Since weaker monsters drop basic skills, you need to hunt stronger ones to get better skills. The first unique skill is so vital because it's the only one you can get without much struggle. The young man hesitated when explaining why he chose this skill, but his teacher urged him to speak up. According to our hero, the camouflage of the jeweled lizard lets him adjust his stats' exact values for a short time, making it useful in any situation. The master reminded his quiet student that there were others with even better skills. But the young man argued that those better skills were either tough to learn or hard to get, and he had his reasons for his choice. Since this unique skill didn't rely on magic, and knowing that unique skills can be improved, the camouflage of the jeweled lizard, with a 0.5% growth rate, could definitely become a game changer for him. The young man reiterated that he made the right choice, since it suited his low magic power. This earned him praise from his teacher for his wise thinking. So the armless one practiced smiling, determined to make the most of this skill. He mentioned he had a monster in mind that would be much better than goblins. The next day, in another part of the woods, our hero finally reached the spot his master had indicated, and then he spotted it. The monster his master had talked about. The creature noticed the protagonist as well. Chow Mu-yuk knew this monster lived alone in a vast territory, making it perfect for long hunts. First, practicing on it would help him take down others and earn points. That said, the hunter and the hunted were now face to face. The core consumer charged forward, thinking about how it had a marble. With that in mind, he decided to use his unique skill to focus all his stats on strength and agility, aiming to take down this new enemy as fast as he could. Cha Mu-yuk didn't worry about his stamina dropping, confident he could finish the fight in one hit. Just then, the young guy was on high alert as the monster shifted itself and unleashed a strong kick that countered his sharp claws. The beast with the big head had taken the upper hand over the Korean Wolverine. Our hero finally saw the creature's quick jump attack and realized it was his boosted agility that helped him dodge a deadly hit. He noticed that the creature's move took a bit to reset, and it would have taken him out if it had connected. He decided to finish the monster off before it could reset its skill. When his attack missed, he figured he just wasn't quick enough. That's when he realized he had to block an attack, and just like that, the hunter took the monster's tail hit that sent him flying a few feet away. But this mistake gave the young man a good grip on the monster's tail. This made him see that his special skill was meant to take down the pig-like kangaroo, so he dodged a crushing blow, only to find the monster hovering right above him moments later. The creature roared, then braced itself and swung its massive tail. But when it went for the attack, the protagonist had vanished. Suddenly, the young man appeared right behind it. The mutant found itself in a tough spot, struggling to react. But the hunter knew he had already won as he slashed through the monster's chest with his claws. It coughed up blood and screamed, and as the young man drove his claws deep, the creature fell lifeless. The hero took a moment to catch his breath now that the beast was dead. With that, our hero lay on the ground, reaching his claws up to the sky. He reflected on how he won more easily than expected, realizing the fight ended quickly, even against a monster with thin skin. He started thinking about how his friend's claws combined with his skills and the stats he gained from the monster would give him even more power. Just like that, the lucky hunter now held the monster's core. After consuming it, he found it tasted better than goblin cores. The protagonist was amazed to see his strength boosted by 0.16%. This filled him with joy as his gains matched the total boost of 6 goblin cores. With the items in hand, the general administrator pointed out that the tailbones, livers, and tendons from the koilo he brought in added up to 1,190 points. The young man was pleased to see that after hunting the monster for nearly a month, he had racked up 29,450 points overall. He kept increasing his daily koilo kill count, now totaling 360. The effects of the cores thrilled him as they were unlike anything else. But as he thought about how this creature, smaller than goblins, was more profitable and offered better points, he was interrupted by the demon, who urged him to step outside if he had nothing else to do in his shop. The protagonist insisted he still had some business to handle. The annoyed black-winged ones thought the young guy was just going to buy cigarettes, but when he said he wanted to pay his rent up front, they called him out for making a bad choice, especially since times were so unpredictable, even though he had the cash. Demon then asked if he needed anything else. The young man replied that he was going to skip the forced hunt. This surprised the creature, who pointed out that he'd need to pay 10,000 points to avoid the hunt. Even as the hero stood his ground, the demon reminded him how profitable the first forced hunt could be. The demon found the young man's lack of courage amusing. Even after gaining power, he granted the young man's wish, saying that backing out could also be a strategy. Just like that, the rent and penalty were settled. Cha Mu-hyuk knew he could snag some great gear by taking down weak monsters in the forced hunt, and maybe even score some skill rings if luck was on his side. But he needed to avoid it to stay alive. In the first hunt, our hero would face competitors backed by groups that could put his income and life at risk. He also planned to sneak into the clans and guilds' hunting grounds to farm points, while everyone was distracted by the first hunt. Ding Hao, despite how effective skill rings and gear points were, always opened up more options. The protagonist felt confident he made the right choice as he headed home. But when he saw what was inside, he was horrified. His master was on the ground, and Cha Mu-yu rushed over to check on him. The man explained he had just taken a few slaps. After that, the disciple hurried to help his master get comfortable before asking about who did this. The one who attacked the master was a guy named Park Hyun-soo, someone the protagonist had met a week after arriving. Park Hyun-soo, who tried to use the protagonist to get points, definitely wouldn't have approached the master if he was at full strength. When asked why he was attacked, the teacher explained that some guilds needed intel from him for their expedition squad. Since many areas on the continent were unexplored, revealing them could lead to big rewards, which is why he got beaten up for having info on an unknown area. This confused the young man, as the thug could have just asked him nicely. But the master said they didn't need to, since he was a weak source of intel with a known location, and he pointed out his student's kind nature. This really angered Cha Mu-yuk. The master then told him to avoid any direct fights with the guy who might come after him, since he didn't get any intel the first time. The angry young man explained that as a newbie, he couldn't be killed by the older residents, so he had no reason to be scared. However, after hearing his teacher, who took the beating due to his stats, say that the bully was still too strong for him, he insisted he wouldn't seek a fight, but would be ready for one. Later, while walking in the woods, our protagonist noticed that the skills he had been spamming had gotten a bit stronger. He also realized he needed to boost his health and stamina for this hunt. Tea was going to take a while, so he worked on balancing his stats. But then, something caught his eye. The protagonist found himself staring down a rainbow snake, a stunning forest creature with valuable eyes, venom, and skin. He could even use its meat for food or to attract other monsters. He was really surprised to run into this monster so early in his journey. The creature, however, was on high alert. The frightened snake lunged at the Korean Wolverine, but our hero quickly countered with a thrust. That hit the snake's upper jaw, and just like that, the rainbow snake was defeated. Cha Mu-yu thought he could score more points than he expected if he found easier to kill, pricier monsters, so he was set on clearing this area. Before finishing his first hunt, he took his fighting stance again, now facing a golem. There was a tense silence as the monster and the human faced off. The golem struck first, throwing a punch strong enough to shatter the ground. But the quick hero slipped behind it and used his powerful goblin nails to decapitate the stone giant. Just like that, the Korean Wolverine scored another win. Noticing that the item he got from the monster could sell for 3,000 points, our hero realized this place was a gold mine for newbies. He was also happy with his choice and unique skill, which helped him rack up over 12,000 points. Our hero fondly remembered the shocked look on the general administrator's face, and wished he could freeze that moment in time. But while thinking about how this forest belonged to a major clan, and how ivory was useless, he suddenly heard something. The protagonist quickly unsheathed his claws, still surprised that someone had approached him unnoticed. With his claws out, the hidden figure was intrigued. Cha Mu-hyuk, too focused on his gains, realized another contestant in the 13 rounds must have skipped the first hunt, meaning it was likely a first year. Since only newbies were drawn to this forest, he figured he should adjust his stats for the upcoming fight. But just as the young man called out to the intruder, urging them to show themselves, a redhead suddenly stepped out from the bushes. Seeing the girl with a dagger, the hero recognized her. During his first week on the continent, when he was trying to escape for his life, a wild dog-like monster had appeared. He and the other newbies had tried to flee. The protagonist was really scared, but then he spotted something interesting. Even though he didn't catch her name, he recognized her well. In his panic, he was the only one brave enough to confront the monsters. While everyone else was too scared to fight, she stood her ground alone. The embarrassed hero remembered he used to be one of those who ran away. After hitting the girl, he asked if they were both first years. He quickly realized she didn't remember him, just like he expected. When she asked if he was alone, he gave a vague answer since he couldn't predict her reaction. She wanted to know how long he had been hunting in that area. The hero dodged her question again, pointing out they had the same goal and should get to the point. She then said she'd hunt in the east while he took care of the west, warning him not to step into her territory. Cha Mu-yuk, the girl who turned out to be an X-Men fan, asked him if he got inspired by the franchise when picking his weapon. fake Wolverine said he picked it for its effectiveness, making her laugh as she didn't want to admit the truth. This made him blush a bit. With that, she wished him luck and went on her way, leaving him annoyed. Cha Moo-hyuk was frustrated that a girl had mocked him after jumping out of a bush, but he felt relieved their encounter ended peacefully. Our hero decided to stay alert, considering the chance of betrayal, but remembering her cheerful laugh made him blush again. Still, he resolved to focus on hunting before anything else interrupted him. Hunting was the best way for him to stay sharp and finish his task quickly before heading home. Soon after, he realized his constant fatigue was making things tougher as he left the forest after a successful day. This made him see how helpful allies could be, but he wondered why the girl was alone since she seemed skilled enough to be in a good guild. He quickly brushed off the thought, deciding to head back for a meal and some rest. Just then, he spotted his first goblin, so the hero got ready to take care of it before heading home. The creature was confused, and before it could react, he had already grabbed it. As it spilled everywhere, Cha Moo-hyuk found what he was looking for from the goblin, which was an easy target. He then ate the green marble, and while he was grossed out by the taste, he suddenly noticed he was being watched. It was the girl from earlier, and it caught him off guard. The disgusted girl thought he was crazy, while he was horrified that his secret was out. He was annoyed by this unexpected encounter, especially since she interrupted his hunt at such a critical moment. Still, the girl calling him a madman shouldn't have noticed the marble, judging by her disgusted look. The confused redhead figured that our hero had eaten the monster's heart. He tried to say he was broke, but she insisted that didn't make him any less of a madman. As he tried to explain, she said she didn't expect to be haunted. Next to a crazy psychopath. Noticing the tension, our hero insisted he could explain, but the lady wasn't interested, thinking he was just a madman. She was set on killing him. Cha Moo-hyuk pointed out how strange it was for her to want to take him out without letting him explain. The girl paused for a moment. Our protagonist said that if she wanted a fight, she'd get one, but it would be better to settle things peacefully. With that, he unsheathed his claws to prepare himself, and asked her what she wanted to do. The redhead thought someone as unpredictable as him shouldn't be left alive, but she agreed to talk, claiming to be a pacifist. First, our hero had 5 minutes to explain himself. The Goblin Slayer insisted he really did eat the monster's heart, and it wasn't out of madness. The onlookers started mocking him for calling the heart a delicacy after hearing this. Cha Moo-hyuk explained he was living with his teacher and savior, who was now disabled. He said his skills weren't enough for both of them to survive, which is why he decided to follow his teacher's advice and eat monsters to save some cash. The girl was skeptical. She pointed out how goblins were similar to humans while other more animalistic monsters existed. So he explained he had to eat goblins to stay alive. Living in this place was pretty gross. He claimed the taste got better once you got used to it and even offered her some, which she quickly turned down. When asked about the heart, he explained he used it instead of vegetables. The redhead looked uneasy. Our hero then said that even though he was grossed out at first, he had to tough it out, and he and the lady had similar stories but different ways to cope. This made her listen closely. With that, the Wolverine insisted he wasn't a cannibal, and said if she didn't believe him, she was free to choose the other option, and he would do his best to win since he owed someone. The redhead chose not to challenge his story but decided to let it slide, as she was tired from hunting and didn't have enough proof of his craziness. Still, she warned him that at the first sign of madness, she'd definitely charge at him. She told him he could hunt here again, but needed to stay out of her territory, since he hadn't earned her trust. With that, she said goodbye, throwing in a quiet insult that he still caught. Feeling relieved, Cha Moo-hyuk realized he needed to be more careful when eating corpses, especially since he almost got caught if it weren't for his lie. He then thought about how exhausting the lady's personality was, knowing it would be a hassle the next day. The next sun finally met his end on the continent. The young man showed up at the scene, pretty pleased with his new gear. The protagonist had picked up a piece of buffalo leather armor, a low-durability light item at rank 7 that cost 45,000 points. He started to think about how useful armor was, especially since it could be combined with other gear. The young man also wanted to gather 50,000 more points to buy a skill ring he had his eye on, which he could have done in 4 days. If it weren't for the other adventurer giving him curious looks, he would have thought she was just waiting for him. So when he brought it up, she flat out denied it and said they should set their territories for the day. After quickly sorting that out, She warned him again to stay off her land, but he didn't really care. As she started to walk away, mumbling to herself, he called out to her, which only made her more annoyed. Cha Mu-hyuk suggested they introduce themselves since they had to talk, but she quickly shot him down. This really ticked the young man off, especially since she wouldn't even share her name, not trusting him, despite his good behavior. He then remembered how his teacher once trusted an opponent, which cost him 3 lamps. With that in mind, he decided to take his bad luck as a lesson, thinking how the lady might have been nicer outside the continent. The frustrated hero then took a quick smoke break, only to hear an unexpected voice. This caught him off guard as more people showed up in the forest. He quickly hid behind a tree, thinking the intruders must have skipped the hunt too. With the 2 new faces in the vibrant forest, the smoker stayed alert. He recognized both of them as being from the same round as him. Still, he could only remember them as non-Koreans. The 2 guys were chatting about how they should have enough points and gear to raid. As they kept talking without any honor, the protagonist realized they were planning to ambush the lady. After thinking it over, he figured it would be smart to get rid of them for his own safety, since they were planning to attack her and hang around in the forest until the hunt ended. Even though he had no idea how strong those 2 were, he thought that since he and the lady were the same number, it was worth a shot to fight them. As he started to plan how to take out the first one by surprise and deal with the second, he paused, realizing he was casually thinking about killing someone, which made him feel like the goblin hunting had changed him. This also reminded him of his victory over the goblin chief, but just then, he was about to back out as the ambushers were about to disappear. So he decided to set that aside and focus on them. The chubby guy told his buddy to hide while he looked for their target, and soon enough, he spotted her. The lady with the dagger was struggling against a giant bug. The fat guy told the other to stay hidden in the bushes. They thought the lady would easily handle both of them since they couldn't hear her. But then he noticed one of the ambushers wasn't armed, and the other was about to sneak attack, which he had to stop. First, he decided to track the blonde one. As the lady's battle with the ant was wrapping up, the thug realized the ambush was imminent. In the end, she managed to chop off the giant bug's head, winning the fight. Watching this made the young man realize the ambushers were about to make their move, so he decided to use his special skill. He aimed to boost his stamina and agility to take them down quickly, while planning to rely on stealth if things went south. Meanwhile, the redhead thought her prey was tougher than she expected. She was about to check her prize. Shurikens were drawn. Our hero felt frustrated, realizing he should have anticipated their long-range attacks. With that, the thug got ready to throw his projectiles. So the young man rushed to stop him, but it was too late. As the shurikens flew, Cha Mu-hyuk quickly warned the girl to duck. This startled her and made her turn around. Seeing this, the fat guy came out of hiding, frustrated that the girl wasn't alone. Just then, she got hit in the shoulder and thigh. The thug wanted to know who the party crasher was. With that, the clash between the hunters began. The fat guy charged at the lady, clashing with her dagger using his bare hands. Annoyed he was using a skill, he urged his partner to finish off his opponent quickly. The young man noticed the old guy was about to kick, so he planned to parry and step back. But when the kick came, he was shocked to realize his opponent knew martial arts. Just like that, the young guy got kicked in the face. The thug laughed, boasting that he was tougher than the others from round 13. But at that moment, Wolverine was more surprised that the kick barely hurt, which intrigued the kicker, so our hero casually punched him in the face, knocking him down while still puzzled by how weak the kick was. Meanwhile, in the other fight, the lady realized she was up against a kickboxer and was caught off guard by his speed. Just then, he charged at her, using his skill again. The guy noticed she couldn't brace for the incoming hit, so she had to block it. Still, she got knocked into the air and landed hard on her back. The thug complimented her for showing such skill despite being hurt, but he decided it was time to finish her off. Just then, he was taken aback. When he saw the young man about to punch him, the fat guy quickly blocked the hit. He then called our hero a rat for following them and asked what happened to his buddy. Our hero found it ironic to be called a pest, since they were the real ambushers. With that, Cha Mu-yu suggested he should punch his opponent's face. As our hero took a flurry of punches, he realized this guy knew martial arts and was a real threat. The thug got annoyed with the protagonist's endurance, claiming that without those annoying game perks, he would have already won, along with his friend who just died. But the hero insisted he was still alive. Just then, the fat guy broke through the protagonist's defense, asking if he expected praise for showing mercy. With that, he landed a solid punch to the gut. The smoker was shocked to feel pain even with his protection. Still, he was determined to win. This attitude made the criminal recognize his tenacity. The man then grabbed him by the hair, pointing out that his martial arts skills were inferior. Our hero felt frustrated. He asked the man if he planned to take him and the lady out. The thug paused for a second before bursting into laughter, saying that was the point of a surprise attack, thinking the young guy was back to beg for his life. He then claimed begging was pointless since the fight was already on. So the young man insisted that wasn't true. He placed his fist on the man's heart, who mocked him, thinking it was a weak punch, as our protagonist asked him again if he really wanted to end their lives. As the man confirmed again, our hero's face turned sad. When he struck the man, blood spilled from the thug's mouth as he realized he had been taken out by a secret weapon before collapsing dead on the ground. Chow Mu-yuk was taken aback when he felt that same rush he gets from taking out goblins after he killed this guy. All he could sense was the thrill of victory mixed with the aftermath of the fight. This made him think that hunting had really changed him. Just then, the girl approached him, and even though she was a bit confused, she realized he had saved her life. As he explained how he had stumbled upon them, she recalled showing them mercy before, which they didn't appreciate. When she asked why he helped her, he said it just made sense, since he would have been their next target. After that, the blushing girl finally thanked her hero, leaving him so stunned that his silence puzzled her. He said he wanted to hear her say it again because the shock from the fight had left him a bit deaf, which annoyed her. But he insisted it was the least he could expect after getting hurt to protect her. As the embarrassed girl thanked him again and promised to repay him, he asked her to say it one more time, which led to her grabbing him by the collar. Just then, they heard some grunting. It was from the tall guy who was still shocked that his ally, the strongest of the Ru, had gone down. The old man, who had faith in his friend, casually walked over, making the protagonist realize he wasn't the brightest. At that moment, he noticed the girl was furious. Her rage scared the criminal, who decided to take off. With that, the girl tried to attack him with the same shuriken he used on her, while the protagonist tried to stop her, but once again, it was too late. Just like that, the projectile struck the man in the head, dropping him dead on the ground. The frustrated hunter asked the girl why she did that, and she replied that it was only fair since they tried to kill them first. The protagonist argued that there was no need to attack someone who was running away, which left him curious since he understood her anger. But then the girl pointed out that something felt off. Before calling him out for not doing enough to stop the murder, she left him confused as silence fell over the forest again. He asked her if everything was okay, and she confirmed with an annoyed look. The Mark Harvest lets you take points from someone who's not alive for a short time, which could last forever if they're in the tower. Our hero said he'd consider both Marks' Mark Harvest as a sign of her gratitude, but she insisted it wasn't. To her, warning about an incoming attack and actually helping her were two different things, which amazed the protagonist at how tough she was as she yelled at him to help her walk. He agreed to help, saying he was hurt too, which made her point out that he was less injured than she was. He explained how the thieves wasted their farming time, making the girl think he was trying to make her feel guilty, but he denied it, saying they must have good loot, which she agreed with, considering how strong the thieves were. But as she started complaining about how she could have taken them if it weren't for the surprise attack, the hero realized she wasn't as cold as he first thought. This made him think back to what the girl had said earlier. When she asked what was on his mind, he pretended he forgot his question, which led her to tease him about having Alzheimer's. This annoyed him, as he remembered he wanted to know why she wasn't in a guild. The question caught her interest, so he pointed out how strange it was that someone as strong as her wasn't in one. She paused for a moment, before revealing that she used to be part of Sixpole. He was shocked to learn that Sixpole was made up of 6 strangers, all from Korea. When he asked why she left, her face darkened, and she refused to answer. This left him confused, since that was his original question. Realizing there wasn't much to talk about, he decided to step away, while she grumbled about her broken leg. After a bit, they finally reached the tower. As he started complaining about how heavy she was to carry, she reminded him again that she was hurt. With that, she pushed him away, insisting she could manage on her own from there. She found it pretty hurtful, considering how much he had helped, but she insisted their help was mutual. Just as he was about to walk away, regretting not ignoring her earlier, she said the name So Young. Remembering he wanted to exchange names, she introduced herself as An So Young. He introduced himself too, and with that, An So Young flashed him a sweet smile as she said goodbye, leaving him smitten. It was then that he noticed the entity with the black wings approaching. This startled him and brought him back to reality. The administrator, noticing he had returned early due to his injuries, charged him 10,000 points again for healing. After the healing, when asked if he needed anything else, he mentioned he had 2 marks. This made the blonde entity happy, saying he finally understood that the best way to earn points was by taking out other contestants, explaining that while killing monsters helps, you need to eliminate players to survive. This reminded him of the goons he had killed, and the lady's dark look when she pointed out he didn't try to stop the murders. Frustrated, he shoved the demon aside, recalling how he stumbled upon 2 contestants who had killed each other, but the demon didn't believe him at all. With that, the administrator decided to check his loot. Once he was done inside the tower, he started complaining about the demon bothering him, especially since he was already in a bad mood. He then wondered if his new partner had made it back to the forest. Before opening his panel, he thought about how the marks from the thugs held 80,000 points, which could help him get a solid skill. Chow Mu-hyuk knew his heart was full of desires and turmoil, yet he chose to look forward to tomorrow. He decided to keep pushing for rapid growth. Before looking at the tower, he thought about how he would eventually make the demons spill everything. As dawn broke, a giant frog in the forest suddenly sensed something was off. It shot out its long tongue to attack, but the attacker leaped from behind and stabbed the toad with his sharp claws. Just like that, another monster was taken down. The protagonist smiled, pleased with the impressive results, feeling it was worth the blood he had lost. Rush of the Fearful Baroque was a special skill that doubled all stats except magic, making hunting the monsters in the vibrant forest as easy as goblins. He then snuck up on a giant golem and charged at it from behind. Suddenly, he felt a shift. As the good times ended and he dodged an incoming hit, he realized this skill had a short duration that made him feel heavy afterward, something he needed to get used to. Cha Mu-hyuk climbed up the arm, thinking about how the other Khan's long grace was due to his low magic power. Magic and magic power were different. The latter had a cooldown and didn't use MP, making it more efficient once upgraded. Magic power was the only stat unaffected by his new skill, and the start of its long cooldown had many signs. The first was a headache, as he could use the skill again once the pain faded. As the protagonist picked up the core, he thought about how the 20-minute cooldown would double if he combined his new skill with the first one, which didn't seem unfair. He also realized this skill could be his ace in the hole as he got stronger, helping him in future challenges. Soon after, near the tower, the young man turned toward the village and was shocked to see many hunters leaving the gate, meaning the forced hunt was over. This annoyed him since he had to leave the lucrative hunting grounds and return to his old spots. Just as the protagonist was about to sort his items and head home for dinner, someone approached him. It turned out to be the bully who always seemed to find him. Xiao Muyu commented on how the hunt must have gone well, but the bully took it as an insult, claiming he was only saying it to the protagonist, who tried to defend himself. Bei Yuchul surprised the hero by suddenly showing his anger and asking why he had been absent, making the hero question if it was really that important. But the bully insisted it was, explaining that his treatment of the protagonist was based on how he treated him. Bo Yogshul then said his lackey could have at least shown up, leaving him disappointed. The bully stated that teaming up with the young man was the only way to survive in this continent, which is why this was his last chance. With that, he shoved the hero away and demanded he show up for the next forced hunt. As the bully said the young man could be either his lucky charm or his target, Cha Mu-hyuk sensed something was off. Just as the bully was about to hit the young man for his dark look, someone called him, urging him to finish their urgent business, making him hurry off. He left with a warning for the protagonist about the next hunt. The hero was curious about this sudden change in attitude and his push for a team-up, realizing the reason wasn't so strange since he had been through it too, the act of taking a life. A month later, the protagonist suggested they dig into the meal his master had prepared, which had cost a pretty penny. He mentioned that since he was making more money now, he wanted to buy some nice gear and treat himself to fancy food. This earned him a scolding from his master, who realized how his students lived on Earth and craved rich food. So the teacher, who couldn't eat, offered a cigarette before the meal. The master pointed out to a student that the forced event was less than 72 hours away. He firmly told his young student to give it his all in the upcoming hunt, which the student agreed to. He then mentioned how the bully was dragging his disciple into the event, claiming he was even faster than anyone on this continent. Bae-yuk-chul must have realized that the hunt could get extremely violent after taking a life. The master explained that having a lot of wild cards was crucial, and that the protagonist should set aside his kind nature for this. He was already ready to do it. This shocked the young man, who recalled the first person he killed and promised to remember his master's advice. With that, the one without arms felt reassured. Before apologizing for bringing up such a touchy subject and suggesting they dig in, starting with the chicken, the protagonist hoped his master understood his feelings. Pierce had killed without telling him, so he was determined to do his best to survive and escape the continent with his teacher. 3 days later, the portal finally opened. All the contestants were gearing up as the forced hunt was about to kick off. Ready for the brutal event, the protagonist tried to calm himself by reflecting on how far he had come. With that, he was finally set to enter. He stepped into the portal. After a blinding flash, he found himself in a dark place with a purple moon, surrounded by others. Just as he started to think about their next move, an entity suddenly appeared, casually greeting the contestants. The demon, noticing they were newcomers, introduced himself as Karo, the hunting enforcer. When the body asked him to get to the point with an annoyed tone, the entity remarked on how enthusiastic he was, as always. The protagonist was intrigued by the demon, who took the insult lightly. The demon then presented the map of the hunt, pointing out the location. Everyone was left amazed. As the enforcer revealed the map, called the Tower of Time, Cha Mu-hyuk and An So-young were stunned by how such a structure appeared out of nowhere. The demon explained that the map's name was nothing, and they needed to reach level 5 to complete the hunt. The final floor only opens every 10 days and would be sealed until then. The entity cheerfully added that those who failed to enter the level would fade away with the map, which was the best option for the weak. As the protagonist understood why this creature was hated, it handed out watches to keep track of time. The second rule stated that no one could piggyback. You needed 100 kills to enter the final level. Rule number 3 was that the monster processed black coins called tower tokens, costing 1,000 points each, along with skill rings. The entity playfully told the contestants they could take watches from others to add to their KDA, leaving everyone in shock. Out here, he figured out that taking down strong opponents could save him some energy. Rule number 4 stated that anyone who hangs around on the same floor for over a day would be found, which left the bully in disbelief. His teammate pointed out how tough it was for their big group. He said it was no shock coming from the demon. Ba-yuk-chul reassured his teammate that their strong group had nothing to worry about. Still, he knew he was the real powerhouse and that his teammates were just tools to use and toss aside. Girl realized the last rule would lead to more fights on the map, while the protagonist understood he was in a tricky situation. Since he missed the first hunt, no one would likely want him on their team, except for the bully, who would definitely betray him. This meant his only choice was the redhead. So after mustering the courage to approach her, he was surprised to see her take the initiative instead. With that, they were now face to face. The young man was taken aback when she suggested teaming up. An So-young pointed out that for a loner like him, teaming up with her was his only option, as she encouraged him to decide. This made our hero smile. Before he could agree, she suddenly grabbed him and urged him to hurry. An So-young insisted they needed to run fast, since it had already started. The protagonist was once again impressed by this girl. This infuriated the bully, who shouted for his teammates to rush in too. Bae-yuk-chul was furious about being rejected but comforted himself with thoughts of how he would deal with the one he planned to kill. The enforcer was annoyed, watching the rushing humans ignore what he still had to say, so he decided to explain the rest at the entrance while admiring their enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the hero, who thought speed was key, suggested they should come up with a plan before jumping in. But his partner insisted they had no time, as talking was wasting their crucial moments. The young man started to think he might have made the wrong choice, seeing how his partner charged in without considering any traps. An So-young decided to chat just like our hero wanted, asking him about the staircase he wanted to take. After a moment of thought, our hero said it didn't really matter. Since they had no idea what was ahead, his partner agreed, as did the enforcer, who suddenly appeared behind them, scaring them as he explained that Even though everyone was different, they faced the same challenges, so their choice didn't really matter. The angry lady called out the enforcer for his attitude, always carrying the humans, and he explained it was his way of helping them chill. Meanwhile, our hero, realizing this guy was just as irritating as the clown demon, asked him if this Star War was like the one in the village. When asked to clarify, the protagonist wanted to know if there would be a separate dimension for each team. Cha Moo-hyuk mentioned that the administrator showed up for all the contestants at once. Game. He didn't quite get the explanation. The enforcer struggled to keep up, so the young man clarified that they didn't need to stress about other teams, since the demon wanted to keep their floor under wraps. After hearing this, the entity took a liking to the clever one, giving him and his teammate a watch. He told them to cherish it, because it would help them track the days, and pressing it once would show their KDA, while pressing it twice would reveal their location. Pressing it 3 times would give them their exact spot after entering a new level. This would let them see their ranking. The demon also added that they could earn rewards for their efforts, and anything left behind would reset. The lady realized this meant they could disappear, and if a fight happened during reset time, it wouldn't be cancelled, leaving the remains behind. The protagonist understood it would be tough to find a hiding spot with their stuff, and that wrapped up the explanation. An So-young asked if he missed any details, and the enforcer confirmed that they wouldn't find happiness without trusting others. She found it ironic coming from a demon. As her partner explained he preferred the third option on QMC, she agreed to let him choose, saying she didn't rely on that method, claiming to be a brilliant student. The enforcer realized the entertaining protagonist was the one Jack had mentioned. Suddenly, he remembered he had forgotten something, specifically that the stairs changed location every day, and everyone would return to the first floor on day 9, which she decided to keep to herself. At the same time, our heroes climbed the staircase and stepped onto the first floor, which had a strange decor typical of demons. They then decided to check their coordinates. But the young man had no idea how to read the data, even though he knew they were on floor 3. His partner explained that the x-axis was for left and right, while the y-axis was for back and forth, guessing that the unit was in meters. This mission felt like a headache, making our hero crave a cigarette. But the lady urged him not to, saying it would give away their position. With that in mind, they decided to check the coordinates of the stairs, which was the most valuable info. After some careful scouting, they quickly spotted the monsters known as ramen soldiers. An So-young shared that she had encountered them in the castle ruins, but didn't expect to find them here, which surprised our hero since the ruins were tough hunting grounds. She clarified that she had only looked at the ruins from a distance, which is why she had lasted this long, and that made sense to him. The young man started analyzing the monsters. Rumor had it that they were tough opponents for newbies who didn't focus on getting stronger, meaning he could handle them, but not the ruins alone. He pointed out to his partner that they should be able to take down the soldiers easily. Cha Moo-hyuk explained that he would charge in first while the girl waited for an opening, so he activated his first unique skill. To boost his other stats using magic points, he activated his unique skill to temporarily give himself a rank 6 agility. At that moment, he summoned the giant lizard, which looked a bit confused. Timu charged at the Alibaba killer Croc, who tried to defend itself with its sword, but the hero quickly pointed out that it was pointless, as he slashed the lizard with his claws. After seeing how little damage he did, the hero thought he wasn't hitting hard enough. But with the monster now hurt, he charged at it again, leaving his partner amazed by his speed. This made An So-young question if her ally was really ranked 7. Just like that, the ramen soldier fell to the goblin's claws. The relieved hero was surprised by how easy it was, while his partner noted that she wasn't really needed. He told her to stop joking around, but she insisted she had never seen anyone this fast before. He explained that his skill had a short duration, but since he seemed to have more to say and was struggling, the annoyed lady urged him to just say it. He reminded her of her strict diet, which confused her at first until she remembered she was with the monster eater. She snapped at him for wanting a snack now, but he insisted he needed the energy to keep going. He pleaded with her to let him do his thing since they needed to open the monsters to collect the tower tokens. The redhead had no choice but to let him go wild, and he thanked her. Our hero rushed to the dead lizard, making her feel disgusted. Cha Moo-hyuk remembered that this type had a core, so he started dissecting it and happily rummaging through its insides. Soon after, he found the piece he wanted and ate it, shocking the girl. This boosted his endurance a bit, which was still better than nothing and would have doubled if it was health. While he was excited about the quick boost, his partner urged him to focus on finding the tokens. But seeing how thrilled he was, she was now convinced he was a bit of a psycho. Before long, our hero had a tower token that looked like a coin. The lady quickly moved on while he tried to ask her about splitting the loot. She angrily told him they should just split it in half like normal. Then she pushed him to hurry up since they needed to hunt as much as they could to survive. Even though his partner was annoyed, the young man had to eat the marbles to keep his secret safe for as long as he could, but he was still considering telling her if it became necessary to win. Meanwhile, on the second floor, a fight broke out, and the humans finally took down the beast, feeling pretty good about their easy win, as it meant they could all get the kills they needed. Meanwhile, their leader slipped away, planning to get rid of them on the last day to steal their kill and make it onto the scoreboard to reach the final floor. Shul understood that ranking mattered more than just surviving, since the demon said hard work pays off. He checked the rankings and realized he needed to copy others by stealing their KDA. While he was deep in thought, one of his teammates snapped him back to reality, saying they probably wouldn't run into any teams on this easy floor with weak monsters. But, as the bully praised the team, he secretly marked his teammate for being too happy about not having a chance to steal kills. The young guy credited their success to their chief, before calling out a few people for their choices, which piqued the bully's interest. He was talking about the protagonist and his crew, who foolishly charged ahead instead of teaming up with the chief. Shul mentioned how the hero was someone he had helped before, but this time, he turned down help to be with a girl, reminding him of that moment. The bully felt jealous of the guy who ran off with the girl, but knew it was a dumb move, as he was set on taking them both out. Meanwhile, the desert swordsman charged forward and landed a strong hit that the young man blocked with his claws. Our hero struggled to hold his ground against the monster's power. Just then, he was told to back off, so he disengaged from the fight. As the ramen lizard prepared to charge at him, he suddenly realized he was actually being targeted by the redhead, who unleashed a skill called Strike of the Magic Warrior Rhaphaidon. The monster tried to use its blade as a shield, but the crazed one insisted it was useless, causing the monster's sword to crack and eventually snap. Just like that, one swordsman ended up stabbing another. This left our hero amazed by his partner's strength. An So-young pointed out how their different styles surprisingly complemented each other. Chao Mu-yu called her out for saying she wasn't needed despite her power, realizing he needed to adjust his plans to fit her strength. As she picked up the token, she reminded him it was her turn, which he encouraged her to do before consuming the core. To boost his strength while thinking about how these monsters would keep making him stronger if he kept hunting and eating, he realized the only issue was their strategy to take them down. The lady, who revealed herself as a marauder, had an unblockable skill he needed to watch out for, plus she was the only one taking out monsters. Our hero really wanted to trust her, but remembering his master's advice left his partner curious when he suggested changing their plan. As the deity sensed he didn't trust her, our hero expressed his desire to do things the right way. After a moment of thought, An So-yeon agreed to listen to him. Surprised by her willingness, the young man suggested they try a different tactic instead of having him distract while she got to kill. Instead, he proposed positioning the monster so its back faced her, making it easier for her to stab. When she was asked for her thoughts on this plan, the warrior said it would definitely reassure the mastermind, as he wouldn't have to worry about her betraying him, and they could split the kills. He angrily decided to move forward when he tried to defend himself, only for our hero to be met with a fierce glare that left him stunned. An So-young explained how they teamed up for mutual benefit, meaning they needed to stick together until the end. The hero accidentally upset the lady, leaving her looking sad. Soon after, he found himself facing a soldier, and after a tough battle, the young man started to gain the upper hand. Seeing it couldn't fight back anymore, he quickly shoved it away and used the goblin chief's nails to stab it down. As the creature bled heavily, he dug his claws into its armor, and using all his might, lifted it up before slamming it back down. With the blood wiped off his claws, the battle was finally done. The girl teased him for copying Wolverine perfectly, which he quickly denied. Cha Mu-yuk then told her to stop being lazy, but she pointed out they had already taken down 3 monsters and that he was the one getting too hyped. After he made another point, she started to realize just how much stronger he had gotten in such a short time since the awesome forest, making the monsters here seem like a joke to him. Meanwhile, the young man was annoyed to have stumbled upon the court he was looking for, while she thought about how they both racked up a ton of points in the forest. Just as she was about to theorize about his teacher possibly being behind his sudden growth, he reminded her it was her turn to get the coin. He asked her what was distracting her, but she insisted she wasn't reacting, saying she always approached those she trusts. They both blushed when they realized what she had just said. The young man encouraged her to say it back, but his partner said she was just hungry. He tried to ask again, but she cut him off, saying that eating was important for hunting. So he agreed to grab a bite. An So-young asked about his water supply, saying she hadn't brought much, and revealed she only had one bottle. This made the girl tease him for thinking there would be water in the dungeon, but he insisted there was a fountain nearby. When she explained how the water looked too shady to drink, he pointed out that she probably didn't have a certain item. Even though the water was definitely strange, the hunter pulled out his purification powder, a cheap item that makes almost any water safe to drink. An So-young said she only brought the basics and combat gear before he handed her the powder, saying it should last until the event was over. The surprised girl tried to argue that she should pay him for the powder, but he said he had plenty more of it. She insisted that purification powder was valuable in this dungeon, meaning she owed him now, so he revealed that was why he was being nice. Cha Mu-yuk shared how much he thought about Faith after entering the dungeon, finding it odd that she adapted so easily to the two attackers she didn't hesitate to take out, wondering if she'd act the same way back on Earth. He believed this continent was a different world that changed their mindset, yet some things stayed the same. The girl didn't quite get how his words connected to their current situation, so he clarified that she was the reason behind everything he did. She was surprised when he pointed out how she always made quick decisions, as if she already knew what to do. He also said she was stronger than him, which is why her wolf scared him, as it signified change. But really, she was still the same person standing up for her values. Cha Mu-yuk insisted she didn't owe him anything, saying she was his beacon of hope and that he wanted to protect their values in this land until the end. He expressed his gratitude to her again, but added that he still didn't fully trust her and was only giving her the powder she earned. Cha Mu-yuk finally got where the young man was coming from, looked at his gift, and promised she wouldn't misuse it. Soon after, An So-young felt thankful for the condensed energy capsules, even if they didn't have the warmth of real food, which led the protagonist to make a suggestion. He bragged about how tasty the snake jerky was, but she turned it down and asked what he was up to. The young guy said he was checking the rankings, which she thought was pointless since they couldn't even get there. When he glanced at the list, some names made him uneasy. Cha Mu-yuk noticed his teacher was in 4th place and started to wonder how he got to the top. He then remembered how his master described the hunt as a terrible place. The man claimed he had great success but kept it to himself to avoid looking arrogant, saying that his smart use of the Marauder class helped him reach those heights. The man urged his student to do whatever it takes to survive in this hellhole, warning that not doing so would leave him just like him, before telling him to take action. Just then, his partner snapped him back to reality, suggesting they find the exit. Cha Mu-yu thought about how he didn't want to give in to evil, even though kindness wasn't valued here. He wanted to gain power to live life on his own terms. He then resolved to keep pushing himself, believing that was the lesson from his teacher. With that in mind, he was more determined than ever to gain power. Eventually, they finally found the exit. He pointed out how they'd spent half a day in this level, while his partner mentioned how far they'd traveled. She explained they had walked 4.5 kilometers and needed to cover 2.5 more to get out of the dungeon. As the protagonist noted, they had been lost in this maze for 13 hours. He remarked that this magic tower was way bigger than it looked. Cha Mu-yuk realized they couldn't get close to the exit because of the risk of running into other teams, and was reminded to remember the exit's coordinates. They recalled the enforcer saying their location would be revealed every 24 hours, meaning they had only 11 left, so the lady suggested taking the stairs. The young man pointed out that the 24 would reset after climbing floors, while his partner said it was better for farming to stay on one floor for a while. He noted how the monsters here were rewarding, and she mentioned sleep, saying 6 hours would be enough, which he agreed with, adding they'd still have 5 hours to spare. With that settled, they decided to use their remaining free time to farm as much as possible, so our heroes charged in once more. The protagonist realized they had just enough time to take down 50 lizards, meaning he could at least grab 40 cores to really boost his progress. The thought of the rewards made him grin in a way that freaked out his partner. Before long, the 5 hours were up. The young man said he was worn out, and his partner remarked how impressive it was that they had hunted for 18 hours straight. Cha Mu-yuk was thrilled with the results, having earned 86 tokens on top of his boosted stats from his marble diet. He felt overjoyed when he checked his window panel. He thought if he kept up this growth rate until the next day, his skill rush would push all his stats, except magic, to rank 6, making him feel invincible for 5 minutes. With that, he was once again happy with his choice of unique skill. He chose to keep his progress under wraps, since it was too soon to share the course's hidden effects with his partner. Just then, the redhead reminded him to stay alert for any strong opponents, and the young man said he was already on guard. Soon after, they reached the 4th level of the tower. The girl found it strange that it resembled her thoughts, but she was intrigued by her partner's comment that it was convenient. He explained that they could use the various items around to create a secret shelter for safe sleeping. However, the warrior insisted that anything big enough for both of them would look too suspicious. Realizing his mistake, the core consumer suggested digging a pit instead. When he saw his partner's confusion, he clarified that it was the kind of hole soldiers use for sneak attacks. An So-young quickly guessed he wasn't as young as he appeared, and that he was a military officer, so he explained he learned this trick from TV. The lady laughed and suggested they keep moving without wasting time, since they had 24 hours ahead. Cha Mu-hyuk noticed that floors 2 and 3 shared the same coordinates. As he hurried to find the best spot for the pit to save time, the lady reminded him they had nothing to dig with. Just as he started to think this mind might have a shovel, he blushed when his partner grabbed his shoulder, telling him to crouch and look. He tried to explain he was startled, but she urged him to see what she was pointing at. He followed her instructions and quickly spotted a fallen dwarf in the mines. An Seo Yengok 13 decided to stay hidden. The core consumer, struggling to see in the dark, explained how dwarves hunted differently than this one, while the sword suggested they stay hidden. She was shocked to see the hero realize the enemy was alone. The protagonist mentioned he had the keen eyes of his late friend, realizing his potential since he had never hunted without light before. Cha Mu-hyuk was touched that his goblin friend was still helping him, even in the mines. Noticing the dirt floor and how the monster had a shovel felt oddly fitting. Still, the Korean Wolverine unsheathed his claws, saying they couldn't watch forever, and he and his partner charged at the fallen dwarf to see what would happen next. Soon after, the protagonist was surprised by how light the shovel was, even though it seemed heavy when their last spray used it. His partner urged him to start digging the pit, but then the warrior mentioned it was time for his meal, shocked to see he was a picky eater since dwarves looked so much like humans. Anticipating this reaction, the annoyed protagonist suggested to his cheerful partner that they find a place to cook. Shortly after, they found a spot that seemed ideal to avoid surprise attacks. Cha Mu-hyuk pointed out that they had spent half an hour on the 4th floor. Before starting to dig and instructing the girl on making her hole less obvious, she insisted she knew what she was doing. When asked how long they should nap, the protagonist suggested 5 hours would be enough. The core consumer proposed using some items to cover the holes they just dug, and the lady suggested the nearby minecarts. After moving their stuff, the heroes felt pretty good about their new hiding spot, which would have made a great base if they didn't have to keep moving. The girl, realizing they had wasted too much time, suggested they hit the hay right away. The protagonist hesitated since they had no alarm to wake them, but she reminded him that on this continent, they had been waking up early without any tech. Still, he suggested that whoever woke up first should wake the other. An So-young agreed, but mentioned she never thought she'd be sleeping in a hole. With that, each hero settled into their pit. The protagonist, cramped for space, realized he didn't really have the luxury to complain. He started to think about how his new life forced him to wake up early without alarms, wondering if he had changed or adapted since this would have been impossible for him back on Earth. He figured that gaining power might give him the answers he needed, and while pondering strength, he noticed his partner giving him a cold look, reminding him he hadn't done anything to stop the murder. Suddenly, the protagonist jolted awake in a cold sweat from a nightmare that left him feeling uneasy. He realized they hadn't been discovered yet. Our hero confirmed they were alone and that they had hit the 5-hour mark. He started complaining about sleeping in a dirt pit, even missing his hut. Deciding it was time, he woke the girl up. When she didn't respond, he knocked again, only to get a blade in his face. The confused young man asked why she reacted that way. The girl paused for a moment. She explained it was only natural for her to be ready at all times, and that his reaction meant they were in the clear. With that, they continued on their journey, confirming they were alone again. The girl was impressed that her partner's plan actually worked, and he assured her he wasn't an idiot. She then started to wonder about the monster they'd face, noting how they reset every day while the protagonist claimed to be thinking about the tokens. Almost spilling his desire for cores, the girl teased him about monster hearts. As the joke got under his skin, she couldn't help but laugh. Soon after, the heroes felt a sense of alertness. The protagonist began to ponder the challenges ahead and felt excited, realizing they were ramen soldiers. Even though they knew how to hunt these monsters, taking them on would be tough. They seemed to be more numerous than on the last floor. This could put any adventure at risk, the girl said, since these creatures would be hard to take down when they grouped up. So the Wolverine unsheathed his claws, thinking they needed to gain power fast, while his partner urged him not to rush into danger. Still, he activated his 2 unique skills and charged ahead, telling his partner to wait for his signal as she tried to stop him. Just then, the monsters realized they were being attacked by someone who knew he could only take on 2 at a time. The young guy realized that even with his teammates' help, taking on 3 lizards would be tough, since she could only strike when there was an opening. So he figured it was best to power up quickly, using the ramen soldiers. With that in mind, he pulled out his goblin claws, determined to grab all their cores before they disappeared. Just like that, he stabbed the first monster right in the chin. He shifted his stance and charged at the second lizard, stabbing it just like the first. In no time, 2 lizard men were down thanks to his goblin claws. So Young was impressed to see her partner gain strength again after he took down 2 lizards at once. After a quick chop-up, he had his first meal of the day, and felt lucky to have found 2 cores. He expressed gratitude for the meal, but the lady looked worried. As she trembled in fear, An So Young suggested they move fast, which puzzled the young man who just got a stamina boost. The lady explained they needed to get moving to gather info about the other floors and the monsters there. He tried to argue they still had half a day left, but she insisted this wasn't just about time. Since they both had over 100 kills, she said they should focus on gaining power and surviving, and that intel from Haunt was the best way to do that. Even though he agreed, the young man still wanted to farm a bit more. Keeping up the pace would help him reach rank 6 health by the end of the hunt, and boost his other stats too. So he tried to convince her to stay a little longer, saying it was better not to leave the monsters they knew well. An So Young said it was smart to learn about the other monsters and teams, while the protagonist mentioned he only had 86 kills. She thought that wasn't a big deal, but it'd be better for him to hit 100 since the future was unpredictable. The warrior said he liked the lizards, so he insisted that wasn't the case and he just wanted to farm the monsters he knew. When she asked if he had any hidden motives, he said he was just trying to get through this event as smoothly as possible. The girl thought for a moment and said he just needed a little more time. She had no choice but to agree, but only if they left quickly once he was done, since gathering intel was crucial, as things were bound to get tougher. An So Young realized she had to accept, as arguing would only bring trouble. Cha Mu Yuk noticed something was off and started to worry, especially since his partner was looking at him strangely. Soon after, the protagonist stabbed another lizard. When asked if he was done, he said yes, leaving the lady furious since he had killed 17 more than necessary and wasted 2 hours. The core consumer tried to argue it was only natural since they were perfecting their teamwork, trying to calm the frantic lady. He also realized he had lost control due to his strong desire to level up, so he had to catch up as his partner charged ahead. Later, the warrior peeked around the wall and found yet another lizard man. This made her really mad, as the hero charged in alone once more. Later, his partner started complaining about him taking down 8 monsters in the dungeon, and then snapped at him. The hero said he was just keeping himself busy with a little side quest. Then, he spotted something interesting, and quickly pointed it out to his partner, who thought it was another monster. But when she saw it, she was totally amazed. Since there was nothing to see, our hero asked her if this was really where the staircase was. As he read off the exact coordinates, the girl checked her watch again. Realizing they hadn't made a mistake, they both figured out what was really going on. Since the enforcer hadn't told them, their target was moving every day, which really annoyed them. The girl glanced at her watch, looking worried. They both realized time was running out, and they couldn't waste any on enemies, so they needed to hurry to the new spot. With that, the girl charged ahead again without a second thought. The hero, frustrated by the wasted time and annoyed with the enforcer, knew they had to find the exit fast. Just then, they both saw monsters at 12 o'clock, which irritated them since the fight came up sooner than they expected. The monsters rushed at the heroes, who quickly took them out before continuing their frantic search, slashing their way to the 4th floor. Just as one was about to hit the girl, the protagonist swooped in from behind. Exhausted, An So-young started to wonder where the exit was, so the hero told her not to lose focus, since they'd already spent 20 hours in this dungeon. She thought the boy who got her this far had great stamina for his class, even if he looked like a total idiot. At first, the protagonist, who leveled up super fast, had stats that rivaled hers. But now, she felt like he was way ahead, especially since he could take on 2 Roman soldiers by himself. The warrior figured his strength came from his diet, which frustrated her since he wouldn't share the secret. This made her look at the gift he gave her, but she was snapped back to reality by the protagonist when they finally found the stairs. While the hero pointed out that they had to relocate the exit daily, his partner explained it was likely done to confuse the competitors. Since everything resets each day and contestants only have 24 hours per floor, those who can't keep track of time would be lost. Sodion suggested moving to the next floor to gather some intel and asked the hero if he was on board. The protagonist said they should start timing from the moment they set foot on this floor before agreeing to move on, which intrigued his partner since she thought he still wanted to farm a bit more. The warriors remembered the hunter's words about keeping hope and values, making her wonder if those really existed in this land. Still, An So-young decided to rely on her own strength for now and put this aside until she could repay the favor. Chamu-yuk pointed out they were still on the same floor, while his partner explained that only the monsters had changed. Just then, she pointed out the monsters they recognized as the common mountain creatures called gnolls. As the lady talked about how tough those monsters would be, especially since they could call for help, the hero suggested skipping them and heading to the 2nd floor. He figured they should get away because the mountain monster didn't have a core, making him wonder if the lizards were the only ones that did. The hero mentioned that each floor had its own type of monster, totaling 4 types, but the lady corrected him, saying there were 5, including the ice dwarves. This made him wish there was a 4th type with a core, when suddenly, they both heard a loud noise. An So-young asked the hero if he still wanted to check out level 2. Soy explained how this would be useful for gathering intel. Once they reached the 2nd floor, the hero pointed out the weird decorations while his partner was still curious about the noise. The core consumer suggested finding out where it was coming from, so his partner checked the time and noted they had plenty of time before the big reset, then proposed exploring the floor a bit. An So-young reminded them to check out the other floors too, stressing they couldn't waste time, and he agreed. With that, they charged ahead. The warrior used her sword to make some cracks in the walls. Chamu-hyuk complimented her, while Hansel and Gretel moved as she explained this would help speed up their search. She called out the hero for letting her keep track of time and the stair location on her own, which annoyed him since he always forgot those details. Still, he felt reassured for the first time to have someone to lean on to fix his mistakes. They noticed this floor was almost empty of monsters, but then the warrior heard a strange noise. Before the hero could speak, she shushed him to listen to the odd sound. Realizing it was an eerie voice, the protagonist figured it must be a signal warning teams who lingered on the same floor too long. With that in mind, he guessed the sound was coming from their watches. Chamu-yuk suggested checking out the monsters attacking the adventurers, and the lady reminded him not to get caught. When they peeked, they saw a bunch of contestants struggling against a horde of monsters. The guy with the flaming red sword gritted his teeth. The bully raised his blade to attack, wondering why the floor was suddenly crawling with zombies. He blamed his failure on his 7 teammates, regretting not reaching the stairs in time since they hadn't been told the location would change daily. Baekshul was in a tough spot as time was running out, and they needed to find the stairs, but the incoming zombies were making it impossible. Just as the bully said he'd charge ahead and leave anyone who couldn't keep up behind, he noticed something strange. Some of the zombies were pointing at him, so the adventurer decided to use magic to blast the dark creatures away. An mentioned she had a feeling about the trapped one before counting 40 zombies, while her partner said the approaching zombies were making him uneasy. The lady explained that the powerful guy with 3 skills was probably the only one who would make it out alive. Bayuk Chul had skills like coordinated explosion, weapon enhancement, shadow shield, and maybe even skin strengthening. This made Anne think he could be the Black Dragon clan's hope, especially with how strong he looked and the impressive magic he displayed. The bully was really irritated by the zombies. He exploded in anger while activating a blue aura, leaving the protagonist stunned. Yuchul started blasting and slicing the monsters effortlessly. The hero recognized this as Gluttony of Mage Romaha, a special skill from the Settler class. This ability let the bully temporarily boost his stats by stealing points from his enemies, making it perfect for creating chances to strike. Our hero realized this would be a real hassle for him, as it would mess with his own skills. But looking at how the battle was going, the young man saw that winning was still possible. Just as An So Young suggested leaving the 8 men behind, she was shocked when the protagonist proposed rescuing them. Even though she found it hard to believe, he confirmed his idea again. The surprised warrior started to think about the hunter's plan, who had a clever and mischievous grin. After slashing a zombie, he thought they had finally cleared away, only to find more undead. Overwhelmed by the zombies, he figured it was the end for him. He started thinking about ditching his team to escape and join another. The only issue was that he didn't know where the exits were. Suddenly, a scream echoed. The protagonist, who claimed to just arrive, pretended to be scared of the zombie horde. Seeing the new arrival, likely drawn by the noise, sparked hope in him. He then offered the young man a spot on his team if he dealt with the zombies, but was left frustrated by the hero's refusal, who faced the undead. The protagonist then shouted for someone to get to the stairs, shocking everyone, since it revealed he knew where the exit was. This caught the attention of the other contestants, who followed him and begged for help, only for our hero to turn and casually flip them over with a big smile, leaving them all annoyed and shocked, especially the team leader, who fought through the zombies, determined to take down the one who mocked him. Just like that, the group of adventurers pushed through the zombies. The angry team leader urged his team to move quickly. The headache from his skills working at once was overshadowed by his intense rage, and he charged through the zombies. But after a while, he realized he had lost sight of our hero, as one of his lackeys pointed out that the undead were closing in. The team leader told him to be quiet while searching for the guide to freedom, who found himself face to face with a zombie that he immediately kicked away. The bully ordered the bullied one to come closer. Bayu Chul, frustrated that the young man couldn't even take down a single zombie, noticed one right next to him. He quickly slashed without a second thought, fuming about how the weakling dared to run off, fueling his anger towards the hero. After a bit of running, the team leader asked if anyone was unaccounted for. One of his lackeys chimed in, saying everyone was hurt but still alive. The bully decided to settle for that, given the deadly situation they were in. Just as he started to think about how important it was to find the exit, he spotted it. The adventurers felt a rush of joy and relief, but the strong one reminded them they still needed to escape the floor first. The exhausted leader explained they were heading to level 1 instead of level 3. With the undead about to charge again, the scared adventurers bolted from the level and shut the door behind them, leaving the undead hungry. When they reached level 1, the bully noticed how strange the tower's layout was, with the first level being a cave. Just as he wanted to continue looking for his lackey, one of his men approached him, and he told him to find the one who mocked him. The young man insisted they needed to regroup first, since the team had to rest and treat their wounds to fight again. Bei had to agree, as resting was a top priority right now. So he told his men to find a spot away from the entrance to avoid any enemies. Meanwhile, our hero overheard everything from behind the wall and was both amazed and glad he had guessed the adventurers would head to the first floor. He urged them to do their best to survive, even though he secretly wished for their downfall. Soon after, he went to his partner, who snapped at him for being late, so he explained he had to stay hidden until the enemy left. Cha Mu-yuk started bragging about how his plan to rescue the enemy without being noticed worked, claiming the zombie made it more believable. The girl, feeling weirded out, decided to sarcastically praise him. Our hero asked her why she went ahead without him, risking a zombie attack, and she pointed to the noise from above. She explained that another team, facing penalties, must have drawn the zombies to them, which made the protagonist feel sad. Then she cheerfully suggested they loot the undead's corpse. Not long after, an adventurer in the Death Ring found himself surrounded by zombies, mustering his last bit of strength to charge at them, only to get bitten in the neck. Seeing him being devoured, The heroes realized there was nothing they could do. The girl suggested waiting until the zombies left, and our hero agreed. After a while, the adventurer had been torn apart. The duo approached the scene and saw that the foreign adventurers had taken down many zombies. Still, they didn't rack up as many casualties as the bullies' team. Our hero was left with a full inventory, and when his partner called him out for being happy, he insisted the loot was worth a fortune. The lady started examining the token while her teammate pointed out they had gathered all of them, with only a few items left unsorted. Soon after, the protagonist, eyes sparkling, asked her again if he could take all the watches, and she explained she didn't care about the scoreboard. One person asked if he didn't want any armor. Our main guy said he'd stick with the hatchet. The lady thought it didn't suit him, which annoyed him, so I decided to check out the kills on the watches. The young guy was shocked to see 629 kills across the 4 watches, but that was way too low, since the 10th place had nearly 4,500 more. Still, he figured he could catch up in the 7 days left. Our hero, who didn't want to get dirty, also had to deal with the bully. This guy would use his team's numbers to take everyone out before backstabbing his own teammates to snag their kills. But that might leave him hurt since the ones he betrayed would definitely fight back. Our hero saw this as a chance to take down the bully. The tired guy then said he needed a break, prompting his partner to remind him that his trip to the first floor didn't help. Since they needed a 5-hour nap, he suggested heading to the first floor, which she happily agreed to. Our hero realized that the first floor was a cave with dirt, home to dwarves with shovels for digging. His partner pointed out how dark the stairs were, and he teased her about being scared. She firmly said she wasn't afraid of the dark, even without lenses like his. Our hero started hoping to find lizards, the only monsters here with cores, after the easy reset. He always had to keep the reset in mind. Once on the first floor, the lady suggested finding a monster with a shovel and a good spot to sleep, while the hero thought they wouldn't run into the enemy team. After finding the shovel and doing the hard work, they finally dug their sleeping hole. As the lady counted 2 other teams, the protagonist explained that one was from China and the other from Japan. An So-young noticed it was quiet, realizing everyone must be respecting the 24-hour penalty. Cha Mu-yuk figured out that the team they looted was the only dead one, and with so little team interaction, the final showdown must be a big event. He thought the best plan for a duo like them was to let the other teams fight it out before taking on the winner to climb the leaderboard. But then, our hero was confused by his own devilish thoughts when the lady spoke to him. He asked her to repeat herself, and she asked if he wanted to go back to Earth. Chow Mu-yuk said that was why he came here, then told the lady to cheer up when he saw her doubts. He mentioned how some got stronger after being here for over a decade, and she explained how she lost hope since those people had been trapped for 13 years. The lady was more scared that she had gotten used to this place than being stuck here forever. She shared how this place made killing easy for her and made her cautious of others, since anyone could attack at any moment. Sometimes, this place was kind of fun. She figured that this continent had changed their abilities and personalities, which is why she focused on having a purpose. The main character was stunned when he heard she wanted to find the demon ruler. She wouldn't say why he made them kill each other here, even though she wanted to confront him. She said getting strong would be tough, but it'd be worth it just to humiliate the demon god. The hero was really taken aback by this. He smiled. Before saying this was a great reason to keep going, he also wanted to ask the demon ruler about his actions. Realizing that gaining more power could take away the thrill of survival, he thought it was better to defy the demons and keep getting stronger until they could finally take on the demon god. Later, while lying down, he realized he got a bit too excited since this place wasn't exactly like a game. There was no final boss. One thing was clear. Everyone here would eventually adapt to the idea that death was part of life. He also understood his partner's reasons and her dreams. Back then, she said she was too afraid of change to see she wasn't alone. But everything shifted when she met the protagonist, who she initially thought was a psychopath. So Young mentioned how he was just like everyone else, and how she wished to be like him because he reminded her of her loved ones. Cha Mu-yuk suggested he might be lying all along, so she said she wouldn't trust him blindly. She said her trust issues even made her doubt herself. Seeing how strong he was, she decided to ask him for a favor, to stick to his values no matter what. When he asked why she wanted to have such a deep conversation, she said it just felt right, like a gut feeling before going to sleep. The young man started to wonder if he was the first person she ever opened up to. He thought there had to be a reason for their new outlook, blaming it all on the demon god, whom he was determined to find, even if it meant facing danger or changing completely. But until he met his target, he would always feel this anger inside. Soon after, a group of contestants passed by his hideout, and one of them seemed really curious. When his teammate asked what was up, he said he sensed another presence. The young man's friend quickly figured out he was using his sense of smell to find others, and asked if they were far away, to which he said no. The man guessed their targets must have just passed, so they needed to find them before moving on. With that, the enemy team walked away. Once they were far enough, they shifted the rock. Our heroes confirmed they were alone again. Han So-young stretched while Cha Mu-yuk pointed out the time, saying they had less than 6 hours left on this floor, which wouldn't have been an issue if the staircase hadn't moved. Later, while walking on the first floor, the hero said he wanted to meet Ramin's soldiers, inspiring him to tease them for relaxing, saying they might run into a horde. When the hero said they could take it on together, the warrior started to wonder if he was just chill or really clueless. But then, our hero got a shock when he spotted a bunch of lizards. Noticing there were 3 of them, the young ones quickly figured out that the number of monsters was going up by 1 each day. The girl asked if he wanted to stick to the usual plan. But our hero chose to switch things up, saying he would distract them while she delivered the final blow. He flashed her a big smile, making her blush and feel a bit flustered. The protagonist saw this as a chance to gain some power, since he knew he could handle 3 ramen soldiers alone. He charged at the monsters, slicing down 2 of them right away. Before the last one even knew what hit it, the girl rushed in. Before the monster could react, he got stabbed in the gut by a girl. Just like that, the 3 reptiles were taken down. Our protagonist noted how this was easier than he thought and how important experience was. But his partner knew that his sudden speed boost wasn't just from experience. As he suggested they dissect the monsters for their rewards, she realized it had to do with his diet. While he was lost in thought, she asked if this was a skill. When she pressed for more details, An So-young explained that his specific diet was behind his huge progress, leaving him shocked. The young man figured it was time to come clean, since she must be suspicious about how much he had consumed, without mentioning he would eventually tell her the secret. An So-young took his silence as a no, but he clarified that wasn't the case. He was just curious about her question. The warrior explained that she was also after strength, suggesting he must have a skill that activates when he eats. This piqued our hero's interest. Suddenly, he remembered a skill that matched that description. It was a rare skill that boosts your stats a little when you eat. Feeling the pressure from the girl, he decided to use this skill, which is nearly impossible for a newbie to get, to cover up the truth. But just as he was about to lie, he hesitated, thinking she had earned his trust, only to recall his master saying that trust can be dangerous because it makes you let your guard down, like the nonsense people spill when they're drunk. And while this only leads to embarrassment in the real world, it could be deadly here, since the core secret was a wild card that needed to stay hidden. With that in mind, the protagonist confirmed he used a skill. In the end, he chose to lie, confirming the girl's suspicions about his rapid growth. The young man felt pretty flustered as his partner got closer, saying she just needed to double-check. When she asked where he got the skill, the young man said he found it while hunting. Impressed by his luck, the amazed girl said she was jealous of his good fortune. She talked about how she thought there was an easy way to gain power, but the hero quickly shot that down. He then suggested that the warrior and hunter do some more farming while they looked for the stairs, which the hunter agreed to. Cha Mu-yuk was surprised at how easily she trusted him, thinking it wasn't the right time to spill the truth to someone who knows he has secrets. Since his master had warned him to be cautious around others, and knowing the warrior would do anything for power, he needed to see if she deserved the same trust he gave his master. So he decided to keep lying for now. Not long after, a ramen soldier got hit in the head with an axe. His confused teammates, who saw the attackers, quickly got into a fighting stance. Our hero praised his partner for getting faster, but said it wasn't the time for compliments. Soon after, he opened up the lizard to grab the core he wanted. After consuming it, he found out his stamina had hit rank 6, which made him really happy. The young man, who usually felt exhausted, was suddenly full of energy thanks to his stamina leveling up. thinking it was some kind of side effect. Meanwhile, his partner, looking tired, suggested they hurry to find the exit, and he agreed. Cha Mu-yuk, feeling wide awake, started searching for the exits and quickly found one. He was also glad to see they still had 10 hours left in the dungeon, meaning they had time before anyone found out where they were. So he excitedly suggested doing some more farming, but the girl said she needed to rest since she was just a marauder who couldn't hear after a meal. She then mentioned that she had a lot of hearts and needed to sleep, making him apologize and suggest they rest on another level. Once they reached the stairs, Cha Mu-yuk suggested going to floor 4 since it was the coziest for sleeping. The young man realized he had been selfish by hunting without considering his partner. Once they reached the right level, the hunter started wishing for more reptiles to appear, complaining that there should be more. As they got ready for a nap, the girl said she wanted to sleep for more than 5 hours, claiming she'd need 7 to keep up with the fast-growing protagonist. With that, they each went into their spots and said goodnight. Once inside, the young man felt full of energy, so he decided to head out for farming while staying alert. As he walked through the mines, he thought about how rank 7 would only boost skills of the same rank, meaning only stamina wouldn't be affected by the hunt. Cha Mu-yuk took this chance to boost his slowly growing magic power, noticing that Rush had a much shorter cooldown now. Just then, he came across a group of fallen dwarves, and when he tried to use stamina points to boost his other stats, something went wrong, leaving him shocked that his unique skill wasn't working on his rank 6 attribute. Our hero still couldn't figure out the issue, and then the monsters spotted him, making him alert as they all charged at him at once. The young man found himself in a tough spot, and even though he didn't know why his skill was glitching, he decided to use this moment to test his progress without it. With that, the monster and hunter charged at each other. One of the dwarves made a quick slash that the protagonist barely dodged, leading to a swift counterattack. He easily took down 2 dwarves. The hunter jumped away from the last one, then leaped back in with a finishing blow, and just like that, he had taken out all 3 monsters. Cha Mu-hyuk felt a bit relieved since only 2 of the dwarves had real weapons, making it manageable. He realized he could only handle 3 dwarves at a time, so he had to step up his fighting game without relying on his skills. Still, he was curious about what was going on, because his battles would get a lot tougher without the jewel lizard's camouflage. That's when he figured out that this skill let him mess with the stat points of the same rank. Forgetting this detail made him feel pretty dumb. His unique skill didn't apply to stamina since it was the only rank 6 stat he had, which complicated things since he was so used to depending on those points. Not wanting to bother his partner too much, he decided to go solo for a bit and rely on his skills. Even though he wanted to look for the lizard people again, he found himself in a tough spot when he stumbled upon an enemy team alone. With that in mind, he chose to hunt without using his skills until the next morning. Meanwhile, An So-young was asleep and had a dream where someone was trying to grab her. When she saw this, she quickly kicked him where it hurts, leaving him in pain as she started to run. But just then, the guy grabbed her arm and pulled out a weapon, and with no way to escape, she was about to get stabbed, only to wake up. She opened her eyes in a cold sweat as her partner told her she had slept too long and that he was going to dig the pit. She promised she'd be out soon. Checking the time, the warrior realized she had been asleep for over 7 hours. An So-young asked her partner how much sleep he got, and he said none, which shocked her as he explained he just couldn't fall asleep. The young man started bragging about leveling up, claiming it was why he suddenly felt energized. This left the girl even more confused. When she asked when his stamina evolved, he said it happened while they were hunting. After looking at his bloodied axe, she asked if he wanted to farm alone, and he confirmed, saying he was on high alert. He went on to explain how monsters were still showing up in groups of 3, and this time it was Roman soldiers, which frustrated her. Just as he was about to offer her some food, she snapped at him. She yelled at him for recklessly going alone and putting himself in danger, saying that any harm to him could ruin his chances of survival. So-young then asked him to take better care of her, his partner. Hearing the word partner confused him and startled her, making her realize what she just said. She quickly brushed it off, telling him to be careful and turning away in anger. The flustered girl, still shocked she called him partner, was surprised to see him taking on 3 lizards at once. As he apologized again, she finally convinced herself he was being honest. After her last apologies, she decided to drop the topic. The protagonist was left puzzled when she asked him for something. The warrior clarified that she wanted some of the jerky he was munching on, which made him happy. As he handed her the food, she started to think about how nothing on this continent could be trusted. Before taking a bite, he told the cook that the food wasn't as bad as it looked, while considering that her new partner might actually be someone she could trust. 4 hours and 15 minutes into day 5, the sun rose on 23 survivors. The biggest team in the contest, led by the bully, managed to bounce back, despite facing tough challenges thanks to potions. The second largest was a Chinese team with 7 members, followed by a Japanese team with 6. 5 days into the contest, only 4 people had dropped out, but things got really tricky after the 5th day, as the teams, feeling happy, didn't clash or run into each other. Meanwhile, our heroes found the staircase. The warrior suggested taking a break on the knoll's floor, which turned out to be tougher than the hero expected. The mountain monsters, known for calling for help, were pretty annoying, and the narrow corridors made it nearly impossible to take down 3 of them before they could call for backup. So, the protagonist, wanting more allies, suggested finding a place to rest, since only 6 hours were left until the reset. His curious partner asked if he wasn't going after lizards anymore, and he replied that he was too exhausted, only getting a boost from leveling up his energy. Just then, they started hearing Chinese coming from the staircase. Protagonist silently suggested they backtrack, and the lady agreed. They quickly climbed the stairs with the enemy close behind, then hid on the 2nd floor. When asked about their next move, Heron said it was best to rest before the reset. He then turned to his team to see if they were okay with taking an hour break before continuing, and no one objected. With that, the Chinese team took a break. The hero then started to criticize their leader for his poor choice to rest near the entrance, but his partner thought it might be a deliberate strategy. Our heroes quickly recognized the imposing Howrun as the team leader, even if the young man thought he had a nasty look. Just then, a bald guy approached the leader and suggested it might be smarter to rest further from the entrance, but he replied that someone was already on guard. Suddenly, someone came up and praised Howrun's leadership skills. The lady then pointed out how the team members seemed like pawns for their master, who was just looking to climb the ranks. Howrun told Renoir to keep quiet if she wanted to stay alive. He then explained how everything was going well and that he was making sure to keep his stuff while they were progressing nicely. He then stated that the rankings were what mattered in this tower, meaning they needed to gain power, and that the 3 of them were the core of the team that would earn the rewards. The leader then gently placed his hand on the lady's neck and warned that if she messed up their plans, there would be consequences. Before anyone could grab it, he made it clear he wouldn't hesitate to change his plans. Renoir, shocked, smiled and touched his face, calling him interesting, and expressing her wish to see the plan go off without a hitch. This moment made both of them the envy of the singles around. With that, Howrun complimented the smart woman. Meanwhile, our heroes watched everything unfold and thought those 2 were a couple of crazies. Mu Hyuk pointed out the guy was all about the scoreboard, while his teammates suggested they should leave once those 2 were gone. But the main character started to worry about running into the Chinese team eventually, so Young mentioned that the howling monsters would be an issue, suggesting they take a quick break. Then he noticed something odd. The monster eater was grinning like a lunatic. When asked about it, he just said it was a normal smile. With that, the warrior had to drop the subject. When asked if he planned to fight the Chinese team, the hero said he wasn't that foolish. So he whispered his plan to his partner, who freaked out over his crazy idea, forcing him to hush her. Cha Mu-hyuk explained they were bound to cross paths with a teen who would take out anyone in their way, as they were focused on the rankings. Their leader would be a pain because of his strength and smarts, so he figured using the dog-like monsters would give them the edge. He took his partner's hand, surprising her, and said he meant it from the heart, insisting her presence would make his plan work. Hearing this, the girl regained her composure and angrily told him to let go of her hand. The one who agreed with the plan warned the protagonist to stay safe, saying she'd ditch him if he got hurt, which made him thankful. Soon after, as the Chinese team moved into the dungeon, the Wild One guessed there were a lot of contestants on their floor because of the constant howling. It was even stranger since it didn't seem like the 24-hour penalty had kicked in. Heron found it odd that the noise started right after they got moving again, and as he thought about how hard it was to locate someone in this way, he figured out what was really going on. The Bald One asked him if something was up. The team leader urged everyone to hide since they had walked into a trap, but everyone was too stunned to react. So the team leader realized the trap had already snapped shut. At the same time, someone was on the run, with a bunch of monsters chasing him. That was our hero, who started thinking that the best move in these games was to take out large packs of monsters, The protagonist's plan was to wait for the Chinese team to get moving again, then follow them into a part of the maze they knew well that didn't have many exits. Once that was set, the lady would give the signal. The heroes took off running, pulling out their weapons to slash at the monsters and draw them in. Just like that, the gnoll let out a howl. There was a girl who had marked the walls and memorized the area for this quick plan that needed solid map knowledge. The heroes had to lure enough monsters to make it work before the enemy caught on. Meanwhile, the team leader pushed his team to move quickly, but the bald guy was unsure since the monsters were chasing an enemy. Still, Howren insisted that the monster noises were getting closer. This meant someone was leading the monsters to them, and before they could react, the trap had already snapped shut. The Chinese team was left stunned as the protagonist dashed in, calling for help with a horde of monsters on his tail. This confused the Chinese, who urged the young man to get away as he ran toward them. The team leader knew the protagonist was intentionally drawing the monsters their way, with a few trailing behind to attract more. As he shouted for his team to escape quickly, An So-young came running in with more gnolls, and this was the key moment. She then spotted the runner they were after. While the Chinese argued in panic about what to do next, Wolverine suddenly dashed through them, slashing past one of them before speeding away, leaving Howren amazed. He urged his panicked team to follow the fleeing protagonist. Suddenly, the monsters caught up with the Chinese team, causing them to lose sight of the hero. Just like that, they found themselves surrounded by the beasts. Still, Howren urged the German to fight to the end, shouting that they needed to carve their way to the exit. The couple then promised each other to stay alive. With that, the mountain monster launched its attack, but the team leader charged at it, striking its side with a magically enhanced blade that made the monster explode. Howren urged the German to put up a good fight. All the contestants fought their way through the swarm of gnolls. Meanwhile, our heroes waited at the gate and quickly noticed that the Chinese couple had arrived sooner than they thought. Howren said he would be ruthless, but our hero didn't care. Earlier, the man was feeling exhausted. Only 3 survivors were left to reach the exit, but then they were spotted by more monsters. The Chinese braced themselves, knowing they were heavily outnumbered. Howren realized backup from the mountain creature was on its way. Still, he was determined to survive to take revenge on whoever brought the horde to his team. A deep desire to kill the protagonist burned in this man's heart. At the same time, the bald man faced off against 2 monsters that he managed to hold his ground against. The woman held her ground, taking down monsters. She checked on Chen, who said he was fine, but then a dog-like creature snuck up and bit him in the neck, leaving her horrified. Before she could get revenge, the team leader grabbed her, insisting they needed to retreat immediately. With tears in her eyes, Renoir agreed to follow him. With that, they made a quick getaway. Soon after, the remaining Chinese managed to shake off the monsters. Renoir noticed the man's injured arm, but Howren brushed it off, saying it was nothing and would heal quickly. When asked if they were the only survivors, the woman remembered her bald friend, but a gentle hand on her shoulder reminded her they'd mourn later. Howren, filled with rage, said their priority was to take down the hero. After walking for a bit, the couple reached the exit, but the man felt a surge of alertness. Spotting the protagonist filled him with fury. As Chow Mu-yuk remarked, they arrived sooner than expected. Renoir was also consumed by rage at the sight of the hero. Howren vowed to be ruthless, but the protagonist dismissed it, saying her reaction was over the top, which only fueled her anger. As she blamed him for Chen's death, he sighed, then darkly pointed out the irony of them accusing him of murder while planning to sacrifice their allies to get ahead. The team leader insisted Chen was special because he was their friend, making him even more determined to avenge him by killing the protagonist. The young man mocked him for valuing his friend over others, claiming he'd be the one spilling blood today. Renhua then declared she'd make the protagonist suffer a painful death. An So-young noted that even though she had initially targeted the lady, she now realized she didn't deserve mercy. With that, they both took their fighting stances. As the grieving woman charged at the warrior, she nearly missed a swing. Renoir screamed at the marauder, who told her to be quiet while fighting. The protagonist was impressed by his partner's sword skills, saying he would have beaten him back on Earth. Howren then asked who he was, noting he only considered the Japanese team and the largest squad. He angrily demanded the hero reveal himself. Still, Cha Mu-yuk didn't see the point, claiming the swordsman who fell for his trap couldn't possibly defeat him, and that he had been looking forward to this fight. Howren, acknowledging the truth, insisted the young man's strategy was doomed to fail, and was eager to explain why. Just like that, goblin nails clashed with steel. Both men were surprised by each other's strength, but the Japanese pushed the Korean back with his sword and charged at him with a deadly slash, which the hero narrowly avoided. They then redirected their weapons, bombarding each other with a flurry of attacks. Howren realized that despite being weakened, his opponent was still a skilled martial artist, while the protagonist lacked true mastery of his weapon and relied solely on his brute strength. The young guy was already in on the X-Men joke as he tried to stomp on his opponent, who stood his ground and swung his sword. The Chinese blade slipped right between the Korean's claws, but just before it could reach him, the protagonist twisted his fist to trap the sword and set up a chance to strike. He then threw a punch at his opponent's face, but the swordsman ducked just in time, leaving the core consumer stunned. Howren followed up with a kick to the protagonist's face before trying to slash him, but the hero blocked the blade with his left arm and hit back with his right. With that, Howren gripped his sword tightly and unleashed a flurry of slashes that the young man barely dodged. Watching his opponent show off this skill made the guy who thought he was the strongest in round 13 question the true power of a Chinese fighter at their best. His opponent then glanced over at the women's fight. Haokoran realized Renhua didn't really need his help, so he knocked the protagonist aside, who quickly used his claws to stop himself. The swordsman suggested wrapping up the duel quickly, and they both agreed to unleash their strongest moves to finish it. With that, they both got ready for the final showdown. Howren studied his opponent and figured he'd try to boost himself before charging in. He also guessed that this type of hero was weak to long-range attacks, and even if he dodged those, he'd still get taken down up close. Meanwhile, the Korean started to think of his master, feeling unsure about winning, so he decided to tip the odds in his favor. Realizing he had only one option left, they both charged at each other for the final clash. They both decided to use some tricks. Our hero avoided his opponent's long-range attack by jumping into the air. Did the Chinese guy alert when he got ready to throw the axe? Cha Mu-hyuk acted fast, but Howren dodged easily and called him out on the weakness of his so-called final move as they clashed blades again. But then, the man realized what had really happened. An So-young couldn't believe her eyes. Renoir was also shocked when the axe struck her in the head, causing her to fall lifeless to the ground, leaving her partner horrified. Just as Howren was in disbelief, he looked down and saw he was stabbed, with blood staining the wall. He wished for the protagonist to end up in hell before dropping his sword and finally dying. Cha Mu-hyuk said he was already there, having hit rock bottom. While collecting marks, the hero started complaining about muscle pain as the girl asked if he was really okay with her taking all the marks. The protagonist replied that it was just a surprise attack and their plan worked, thanks to her. With a cheerful smile, he was met with dark looks. The girl then turned to the lifeless body and stared into her dull eyes, which pulled her into her own thoughts. With that, our heroes decided to get moving and hurry since time was running out. The girl knew the boy only did what he had to do to survive, which meant killing others like everyone else. She recognized how clever his plan was for distracting the enemy and taking them out, but even with that in mind, she couldn't shake a bad feeling. Earlier, while the Chinese were battling our heroes, the bully was locked in a sword fight with another group. He tried to grab his opponent's face with his free hand, but it got swatted away fast. Then, the event charged at him, and just like that, his long sword met the katana. With the way they were positioned, both guys had their backs to their teams. Bae Yugshul glanced back at his fallen comrade, wondering how they were so easily spotted by the enemy. The Japanese took them down in a surprise attack without giving them a chance to fight. As the bully thought about how his team survived thanks to him, one of his lackeys asked if they would make it, only for him to snap back and call the guy useless. The bowl cut recognized the katana wielder as Shibata of Musashi and his allies Eitu and Aoki, and felt a chill. His teammates screamed at him to pull himself together. Bae Yugshul knew he was in deep trouble since the Japanese team had easily handled every threat they faced. Shibata, having to admit the bully's strength, said he wanted to use his allies' sense of smell to plan a surprise attack. When asked what to do next, the swordsman suggested they take out the enemy quickly, but stay alert to avoid the worst. Just then, someone shouted the Japanese name. Bae Yugshul, open to fighting, said he wanted to chat first. So the man explained he was already talking, and should get to the point. The bully then highlighted his strength that could really hurt the Japanese. But Shibata didn't get what he meant, so the bully clarified he wanted to suggest teaming up, which shocked his teammates. This left the Japanese confused. Bayo Chul suggested they finish off the powerful Chinese team before resuming their fight, knowing they would be a problem. Shibata saw the logic in his words and turned down the offer. The bully was taken aback. The Japanese explained he had heard stories about him. Sure, he would betray him in the end, which is why he wanted to keep fighting. So, the Korean got into position, ready to continue the battle with someone who surprised him with his wildness. The Japanese told him to be quiet. Bayo Chul decided to give orders to his team, saying he would take on Shibata and Aitu, leaving the rest of the Japanese to them, and promised to take out anyone who defied him. Just like that, the two teams charged at each other. A butterfly pin was handed over. The girl asked the boy when he got it. The main character insisted that those items weren't really his style, which made his partner blush a bit as she accepted the gift. So Young was taken aback by how pretty it was, and decided to take it, even though the stats weren't great. Meanwhile, our hero was rummaging through his backpack. Cha Moo-hyuk took a look at the various items they had gathered, despite having wasted so many others. He now had a skeleton and a leather belt to check out later, but the real treasure was the inventory bag, a pricey little container that could hold big items. This made him realize the Chinese team was loaded, and by claiming their kills, he had racked up over 3,000 kills, needing just 2,500 more to hit the scoreboard. Our hero then grinned creepily, thinking about how his tower tokens added up to 3 million points, only to be nudged by his partner. He figured it was because of his weird smile, but the girl just put on the hairpin, leaving him stunned. So Young asked him if the butterfly looked good on her. Watching the amazed protagonist confirmed it. After a brief silence, the Sunday hit our hero for staring too much. As he complained about her ruining the mood, she was left confused by his foolishness. With that, she decided to get some sleep, saying she was wiped out from the day, while the protagonist told her to go ahead, instead of pushing him away. Soon after, under the rock, the girl was left to ponder, while fiddling with her new accessory. Thinking about the protagonist's smile, the Sunday found him pretty annoying. Meanwhile, the bully was frustrated that his team had been wiped out. He, who had underestimated the Japanese, realized he had survived by luck and was now powerless to fight back. Bayo Chul, feeling drained, had to figure out how to dodge the 24-hour penalty. So he decided to use the medicine he had and keep a low profile while looking for the exit. The bully, remembering our hero, aimed to avoid monsters as much as he could. The man was really annoyed that he had to hide, which made him more determined to take out all the other contestants and be the last one standing. Meanwhile, on the third floor where the Japanese team was resting, the staff user said she wanted revenge. The team leader said they needed to rest, but the one with long hair was still set on getting revenge. Shibata reminded them of their plan to control the stairs to the final floor on day 9 and take out anyone who dared to come in. Aoki pointed out that this could be a problem since the Chinese team would definitely be an issue, along with the bully, who they might not get to eliminate. Aoki was really ticked off, as their grand plan had cost them 3 allies just to get out of their friend's smell range, which is why he wanted to avenge them. The leader chuckled lightly before grabbing his subordinate by the collar and calling him out for being disrespectful. He explained that they might not find their targets if they started searching, and if Aoki wanted justice, he should do it alone. Since he was scared to do that, he should keep quiet. So the staff user voiced her disappointment, claiming she was stronger than her team leader. But just as things were about to get heated, the third member had to step in, stressing how important it was for them to stick together. The smeller turned to his buddy and promised to let him know if the Korean guy showed up, adding that they should all work together since they were the strongest team. With that, the staff user broke free and started to walk off, saying they needed to find a good spot to rest. Shibata called her out for acting like a yakuza, even though she was just a gym teacher on Earth. But the smaller one insisted her sense of brotherhood deserved respect, not judgment. The team leader agreed that he wanted the Korean dad too. As time went on, the Korean guy was doing his best to stay under the radar, sticking to his routine of looking for the exit, waiting for the reset, and searching again. Even though the Japanese team had some clues about him, they still couldn't track him down, which had everyone on edge. Finally, night fell. At the same time, our heroes found the stairs were clear. An So-young fumed that she would have loved to explore another floor before the reset, if it weren't for a lizard lover. But the protagonist didn't regret it since all his stats except magic had leveled up. This left him feeling pretty satisfied, but also surprisingly sad that they only had 2 days left in this XP mine. Then, just as day 9 hit, the ground started shaking. Suddenly, a hole opened up beneath our hero's feet, sending him into a long fall. The protagonist started cursing the enforcer, who must have kept another rule hidden from them. Meanwhile, in the dark void where Kero was chilling and listening to music, he suddenly noticed something and realized his prank was about to end since the forced hunt was nearly over. So he decided to check how many survivors were left. The enforcer saw that there were way fewer survivors than expected, meaning the teams must have fought each other a lot. He then checked the watches and found that the Japanese leader had 10, while the hero had 11, meaning they took all the watches from their teams. The demon was pleasantly surprised by the protagonist's results, seeing he had more watches than his bully, so he decided to up the death count by making the contestants kill each other until there was nothing left, which made him chuckle wickedly. Back to our fallen heroes. They were shocked to see that despite the pain, they didn't take much damage from what looked like a deadly fall. As the protagonist pointed out that they had dropped back to level 1, the girl was left frustrated since day 10 still hadn't come. Just as he started to think this was all the tricky enforcers doing, they were suddenly approached by none other than the bully. The Koreans were surprised to see each other. The confused Bae Yochul said he was glad to see his lucky one again, only for the supposed lucky one to say the feeling wasn't mutual. Just then, the metallic staff hit the ground as its furious wielder finally showed up. Yoki finally spotted the murderer and immediately wanted to take revenge for her teammates, but her 2 friends quickly stopped her. This made our hero realize there must be some bad blood between the bully and the Japanese. Bae Yochul figured out that their fall to the first floor was the enforcer's doing. While the Japanese team didn't try to calm down their bully, he realized the lady was mad about her comrades who attacked him and claimed he was the real victim since his whole team was wiped out. Aoki wanted to know why she was still being held down, and the leader told her to read the room. With our 2 heroes possibly being allies of the bully or the missing Chinese team, things could get complicated, so they decided to hold off until they figured out what these 2 were capable of. Shibata reassured her that she would get her chance for revenge. The bully didn't understand all the fuss, especially since the Japanese team was just put on the spot while the hero was trying to convince his partner to go along with his plan. The girl who wasn't happy with the situation realized it was their only choice. With that in mind, the one with the sweet smile decided to share an idea, piquing everyone's interest. Bae Hyuk-chul insisted that this wasn't the right place for the hero's idea, but the protagonist brushed him off and suggested a big team-up. Just as the bully said that was impossible, the Japanese team leader interrupted, asking the protagonist to explain since there was clearly some bad blood between them and Bae Yu-chul, making them enemies. Aoki tried to jump in, saying she would never team up with the one who killed her friends, which got her a death stare from Shibata, who told her to be quiet. That made her keep her mouth shut. When asked if he could continue, Shibata said yes. The hero pointed out that returning to the first floor was the demons' doing, and highlighted their small numbers, mentioning that they were the only survivors from their teams. The Japanese team leader confirmed they were down to 3, with the once largest team having only 1 survivor left. This made the bully angry, and he suggested they settle things with the Japanese right then and there, but the protagonist reminded him that the Chinese team still had 7 members, claiming he had just seen them on level 2, all intact, and they must be somewhere else on the first floor. The young man then said the demon wanted the smaller teams to unite for the final showdown. The protagonist explained that they'd have a much tougher time surviving if they fought each other now. Bae Yuk-chul expressed his skepticism, so the hero admitted he had no proof but argued that teaming up was better than nothing. Cha Mu-yuk added that having more allies would be smart, considering the demon likely had more tricks up his sleeve. This made the bully think, as well as the Japanese team leader, who surprisingly agreed to the team-up. They tried to convince him that teaming up with Bae Yuk-chul was a bad move, but he insisted it was the best choice because they needed the numbers. Shibata also mentioned that the enforcer's words were meaningless and that they'd struggle against the Chinese team, whose location was unknown. He then turned to the bully, saying he wouldn't pressure him into teaming up, but it would be in his best interest. Bae Yuk-chul confirmed he understood. Before accepting, he clarified that the team-up would be temporary since he didn't trust any of them and would break it off if it didn't seem necessary. The Japanese team leader agreed to those terms. As the team came together, the girl thought about how impressive her partner was for quickly coming up with a plan and getting enemies to work together. But now came the tricky part. since this alliance was bound to fall apart, built on a lie, meaning that once it dissolved, the true winners would come to light. Shibata then pointed at someone, saying he would take the lead. The boy said two things were bothering him. First, he didn't like taking orders, and second, he wanted to be in front. Shibata clarified that he only made that request because of his skills. The bully, however, was hesitant because of the angry girl behind him, but her leader assured him she wouldn't cause any trouble. Shibata pointed out that it was only fair for him to give orders, since his team was the largest in the alliance. He then called for a vote on whether Bei Yu Chul should go up front, and with 5 hands raised, it was settled. The bully was really annoyed with the protagonist for raising his hand too. This made him even angrier at the hero, and he decided to get back at him before saying they would take turns in the front. He then looked at the warrior, who was puzzled by his sudden stare. On So Young hated Bei Yu Chul so much that she started praying for something bad to happen to him. The Japanese team leader asked the heroes to follow behind them, and they agreed. Cha Muyuk felt a bit insulted that Shibata had the nerve to ask them to watch his back, while his teammates noticed how relaxed he seemed. Back when he suggested the team, she was taken aback, so he explained it was better than risking a fight. Our hero said they should use the Chinese team as a shield, but the girl still had her doubts. She was left confused when she saw him smile innocently, while claiming he had a plan to betray everyone later. Even now, the girls still weren't fully convinced about the plan. Aoki asked her leader if he had a plan, which piqued his interest. The former gym teacher said she didn't trust the two in the back, or the one in front, so he told her to keep it down to avoid any trouble. He then grinned wickedly, saying everything would turn out just fine. Meanwhile, the bully was frustrated that teaming up was his only choice. He was also curious about the redhead, who seemed to know something shady. Still, he decided to drop the topic. With that, they all agreed to wait for the right moment to betray each other. After 4 hours of wandering and finding the stairs, the hero pointed out how they were quicker than expected, while Shibata mentioned only normal dwarves were on this floor. With that, the guy decided to say goodbye. He rushed to the stairs, leaving his team behind, which left everyone stunned. On So Young voiced her frustration about the Black Dragons backing such a fool, so the hero suggested he must have some hidden talent. With that, the staff holder was the second. Shibata was surprised to see these two had made it this far, so the girl said she didn't want her subject to vanish again. The leader explained that the bully was weak on his own, which is why they should head to the upper floor. Soon after, on level 2, Ba Yog Shul was sitting quietly, confirming the Japanese guy's theory. The bully noted he was surprised by the map changing, and the staff user explained they had known about this since floor 1. She pointed out that getting everyone back to the first floor was the only way to make sense of the map change, then called out the bully for wanting to sneak attack. He vented his frustration about the enforcer, but the Japanese team leader told him to chill, since they had to find 4 more staircases in under 20 hours. The angry guy warned the man to back off, even threatening to kill him, but Shibata stayed calm. Our heroes realized they were racing against the clock, needing to find the last staircase too. The Japanese guy urged the Korean to hurry up. The bully struggled to keep his anger in check, plotting how he could finally take out the annoying one. The Japanese warned their leader to worry more about the hero in the back than the brute in front, feeling like pawns in his scheme. Shibata praised their insight, but told them not to mind him, since they were the strongest in an alliance that everyone was maintaining, until floor 5. He was sure they could take out their teammates when the opportunity arose. Soon after, Bei Yu Chul, disgusted by the undead, used his skills to push through them. As he blew things up left and right, the Japanese recognized his talent for clearing a path, with their leader noting it was expected from someone favored by the Black Dragons. While our heroes thought his style was foolish, they secretly wished for his downfall. After a few explosions, they found the next exit. Shibata complimented the bully for getting them to the staircase in just 3 hours, which only made him angrier as he claimed he had carried the whole team. But the hero insisted that wasn't true, as they had killed and taken tokens from the zombies, which only fueled his anger since they were short on time. Chao Muyu then explained to the annoyed guy how the loot was split fairly. Our protagonist realized that with the map becoming simpler, he could find his favorite monster on the 3rd floor. So he suggested taking the lead with his partner instead of the bully. But Bei Yu Chul said that was impossible since they couldn't hold their own against the lizard soldiers. The hunter urged him to have a little faith. Our hero said he wanted to earn some tokens. Still, the rest of the team doubted their ability to stand their ground. This left our heroes no choice but to charge in and prove everyone wrong, which others thought was a deadly mistake. On So Young asked if they really had to show their strength, and the hero confirmed, saying they should hold back a bit. With that, the two partners started cutting through the ramen soldiers, leaving the bully stunned and confirming the Japanese team's doubts. With one last swing, the protagonist's axe drew its final blood, showcasing their strength. While Shibata agreed to let them take the lead, Bei Yokshul was shocked by the young man's sudden burst of power. As the core was consumed, the others were left intrigued. So the hero said he was just taking a snack break. This grossed out the swordsman, since the protagonist was munching on the hearts of the monsters. An So Young insisted on keeping his diet a secret even after getting stronger, but our hero said it was all part of his strategy. He pointed out that being seen as unpredictable would confuse others, making it easier for them to plan. The protagonist happily tossed some lizard meat to the guy. The smaller one suggested that the hero might have a special eating skill, but the chief shot that down, saying a newbie couldn't possibly have it, so they should just leave him be. With that, the staff user called him out for putting the bully behind them, and he explained he was harmless for now. The protagonist then decided to keep moving, while the Japanese guy watched, intrigued by his behavior. Meanwhile, the bully was watching, more determined than ever to survive. As Cha Mu Yuk mentioned, they cleared the floor in 4 hours. The Japanese guy noted they could have done it faster if it weren't for the hero's snack break. Our hero said he was just too hungry. But the truth was, he didn't need cores anymore. With all his stats at rank 6, he'd need rank 6 cores to level up. So the rank 7 Lizardmen cores were useless to him now. Still, the remaining survivors were pretty strong, so he decided to bring them down to his level. Cha Muyu planned to mess with their heads and provoke them, so he could take them all out and claim the top spot. His partner watched quietly as he grinned evilly again. Once they reached the 4th floor, Shibata wanted to go over some details, as the untrustworthy enforcer claimed that the opposite forces from the last floor would show up on the final day, meaning they might not be here yet. So he suggested they split up to search, while keeping an eye out for the missing Chinese team. With that, everyone started looking for the last staircase. Our heroes searched together with the Japanese, while the bully went off on his own. After 7 hours of searching, they still hadn't found the staircase. This led them to wonder if they should keep looking. Shibata asked Itu if there were any areas left unexplored, but Itu confirmed they'd covered the whole floor. When asked if he had a mapping skill, the smeller said he just had a good nose. The alert hero asked if he could also smell people, which he confirmed, putting the protagonist at ease and giving the bully an idea of what was really going on. Shibata suggested taking a break, saying farming gnolls would be a hassle, then proposed that pairs take turns keeping watch, starting with him and the hero. So Hyun tried to argue that taking a break now might waste their time, but the guy insisted his instincts were spot on, meaning waiting was the best move. While she still had her doubts, the bully said he was tired. Before yelling at her to sit down like she was told, Aoki immediately called him out for being rude, telling him to watch his words. So Bayu Chul agreed to keep quiet. This annoyed the staff user, who had been taught by his mom that he would team up with the bully. Meanwhile, she and the one who called herself An Seo Young would keep watch together. But when Aoki asked why this decision was made, her friend told her to be quiet. Ba Yek Chul explained he was doing it to ensure each Japanese person was watching an enemy. He started to think about the warrior's name, and finally remembered where he had heard it. The bully recognized her as part of Six Pool, and someone close to Kim Jong-won. Little guy recognized the last name as the branch manager of that family. Bae Yuju explained that this was a well-known Korean who almost got castrated for messing with An So Young. As he kept rambling about her story, a blade suddenly swung at him, only to clash with steel instead of hitting flesh. The bully realized he nearly went down while claiming he was just telling a story. An So Young told him to shut up, her eyes dark with a threat to slice his throat. He then said this would be a nice change from the sausage fest in this tower. Aoki tried to step in but was blocked. The lady heard that the Koreans were also enemies of the body and said she would help kill him, but the smaller one warned it could be a trap. He recalled his recent chat with the leader about the chance that Haorin might have survived. This suggested it was unlikely since they hadn't seen him, leading Shibata to point out that the heroes must have taken him out. This was shocking because it meant they had eliminated the Chinese team. So the leader explained their relaxed lie and how they might be allies with the bully. The swordsman decided to talk to the protagonist to see if the Koreans were united before making any moves. He also told them to keep an eye on their teammate. Itu, thinking they might be overreacting, chose to take the risk and see how the fight between the two Koreans played out. Seeing this, our hero tried to step in, but a blade was swung near his neck to stop him. Shibata was blocking his way. The hero angrily told him to move aside as the man tried to calm him down. Cha Moo-hyuk urged him again to stay out of it, but the Japanese guy wouldn't budge. The protagonist realized the man had some idea of what would happen, which he didn't deny. Cha Moo-hyuk said he would jump in if the girl was in danger, and even take down the swordsman if he tried to stop him, which the men accepted. Meanwhile, as the two flashed their blades, the bully pointed out the other's stares to the girl. She explained that they all wanted him dead, and he whispered angrily for her to think about who would be the next target once he was gone. After a quick whisper in her ear, the lady was really frustrated. Before pushing her opponent away, Bae Yog-shul, who admired his opponent's strength, decided to end the fight and rest as much as he could. With that, he decided to close his eyes for a bit, while the girl he called his whispered about a deadly ambush. She felt annoyed hearing him say it would be 3 against 3, which is why they should team up. Bae Yog-shul said he would make the first move and urged the girl to get her partner on board. The bully pointed out that once the Japanese, who would definitely try to backstab them, were out of the way, they would have the upper hand against him. He also mentioned that this alliance wouldn't last long, probably just a few hours. An So-young hoped their plan would actually work. At the same time, the Japanese leader reassured the boy that there was nothing to worry about. He then noted how the young man seemed really attached to his partner. Our hero tried to deny the claims, insisting they needed to stick together against the Chinese. But Shibata smirked and called him out for lying about Howren and his team still being alive. The young guy felt a chill when he realized he'd been caught. The hero kept insisting that the Chinese were still a threat, but the man told him to stop lying. Then he started detailing the young man's plan, which fell apart when he realized the Japanese were actually clever and cunning. He pointed out the hate-filled look the hero shot at the bully, showing they were definitely enemies. The protagonist tried to deny it, saying they weren't in some comic, but Shibata revealed he knew this because he was a real Yakuza and a killer who wanted to team up with other murderers, leaving the young man confused. With that, the Yakuza suggested that the axe wielder and his partner join forces with them against their common enemy, promising to help with surprise attacks. Cha Moo-hyuk, realizing they were being used to bait the bully, asked what would happen if they refused. Shibata insisted they had no choice, stating that if they refused, his teammates would take care of the young boy's partner, while he, claiming to be powerful, dealt with him. So the young man faced a choice: side with the Yakuza or the bully. Meanwhile, Bae Yog-shul, unable to sleep, realized he was in a tough spot. He suspected the Chinese team might be gone, and thought the Japanese were behind it. The man, comforted by his hidden wildcard, knew the Japanese leader would stab him in the back at the first chance. Soon after, the shift between the protagonist and the Yakuza ended. Shibata mentioned he needed to talk to his subordinate and suggested the hero and his partner might want to chat too. Later, they both shared how they were approached by both sides. Cha Moo-hyuk explained that the Japanese, who wanted an alliance, knew the Chinese had been wiped out by some skill. Still, the girl wasn't surprised, and her idea matched what the third partner thought. The hero pointed out that he had expected the two enemy sides to clash. He then said that for the plan to succeed, they needed a one-hit skill like the warrior's thrust. With that, the protagonist expressed complete faith in her and her skills. The angry tsundere started to panic, urging the boy to let her go. Our hero worried about her because of her flushed face, but she told him not to worry. She then apologized for snapping at the bully, promising it wouldn't happen again. To her surprise, the hero didn't scold her and admitted he felt the same way. With that, their brief chat wrapped up. An So-young was confused as he started to walk away. Realizing he needed to keep it together, our hero decided to rely on his own strength, since his skills were pretty much useless with his rank 6 stats. So he chose to trust the nails his good friend the goblin had given him. Everyone knew the final showdown would happen during the last shift, when the most hated character would be in the narrow passage. The bully grinned wickedly, thinking he had it all figured out. Soon after, when the lady took their shift, the marauders shared that they had already spent an hour and a half on it. Back then, she asked the protagonist about his reckless move to save the body from the zombies. He explained he did it for the watches, which made her snap at him since that wasn't what she meant. Cha Moo-hyuk laid out 3 reasons for his actions. First, Ba Yog-shul would have definitely survived the zombie, so trying to kill him would be pointless. Second, it would be easier to just take him out and grab his loot. The third reason was something the hero felt embarrassed to admit. He wanted to take down the bully, who reminded him of his troubled past. The protagonist believed that to move forward, he had to confront the ghost of his past. At first, the young man didn't care about dying, but now he was fixated on the rankings and apologized for all the trouble he caused his partner. Back in the present, the lady readied her weapon, hoping for the best. She glanced at the staff user, knowing she needed to finish her off in one strike. For the plan to succeed, both sides had to consider the hero's allies, since the sneak attack would happen once the bully was in the middle of the battlefield. Without the Japanese leader, he'd likely betray the most hated character here. Meanwhile, Bae Yuk-shul was clearly aiming for one person on the Japanese team. The first part of the plan was to act like allies with the bullies, meaning the lady had to take out the staff user since no newbie could block her thrust. Given that her partner was sent by the Yakuza to eliminate the bully, it meant no one would be around when the protagonist made his move. This should lead to our heroes teaming up in a three-way battle against the other two survivors. In the worst-case scenario, they could team up. An So-yeon realized that getting the first blood was key, along with controlling the exit to retreat if necessary. Just then, someone woke up the bully, who asked if it was morning. Cha Mu-yuk confirmed it was high noon. Bae Yuk-shul said he found the protagonist amusing, which was pretty much his only good trait. With that, the delayed bully moved on to start his shift. Then, the Yakuza smashed his weapon down, ready for action. Our hero did the same, gripping his axe tightly. Bae Yuk-shul tried chatting with Itu, but Itu wasn't having it. Meanwhile, the girls noticed the creep was getting closer. Bae Yuk-shul mentioned he was curious about the smeller's loot, which just fueled the guy's anger. The boy insisted he was just trying to make small talk. With that, he took on a serious tone, claiming he was about to show off what he got from the last 4 stunts, and just like that, it kicked off. An So-young charged at Aoki, who surprisingly stood ready for her attack. The protagonist sensed something was off, prompting the Yakuza to pull out his weapon. The staff user, realizing the ambush, tried to share their plan as expected. Still, our hero trusted his partner's skills, leaving the staff user stunned as she dodged the ambush. The marauder pointed out that it was way too predictable. Our hero knew his partner was strong. She plunged her weapon into her opponent's heart. Just like that, Aki was taken down by An So-young, shocking both the Yakuza and the third team member. For some reason, the bully decided to take this chance, going after the young one's heart. He threw his axe, bracing for the worst, feeling a wave of fear wash over him. Weapon flew toward Bae Yuk-shul. In that moment, the girl yanked her blade from her latest victim. Suddenly, a bright red light lit up the tunnel. Cha Mu-yuk felt like he couldn't keep his partner safe as he promised, sensing despair closing in. An So-young always believed she had to be strong on her own. This mindset had shaped her since childhood, influenced by herself and her mother. So-young, who lost her father, was raised by her single mom, who taught her about the harshness of life, saying it was a tough place full of bad people, and you could only count on yourself. Despite her mom's flaws, the girl still managed to make her proud. Eventually, winning became second nature to her, as she felt no one could compete. Because of the world she lived in, An So-young never really knew what friendship was. She never made an effort to befriend anyone, even though she treated them well. This harsh world kept her stuck in her loneliness. She faced obstacles along the way, like the huge crowds of people vanishing back on Earth. To her, her home felt just like this continent, with the only difference being that winning meant surviving another day. Eventually, she joined a group of 6, feeling reassured that she finally had some allies. She thought being part of a strong team would keep her safe, even starting to plan how to climb the ranks. But she soon regretted calling those people her allies. For the first time, An So-young felt scared, realizing she couldn't survive or fight on her own. On this continent, So-young felt ashamed and thought she'd be punished for asking for help, so she kept running from that tragic day. She thought being alone was her only way to survive, but suddenly her mind changed. The bright red light was so intense that it blinded her, and it also hit our hero, who was blinded too. He recognized it as a flash grenade. It was a rare skill that could paralyze someone for 10 seconds if they were at the same level. Everyone was shocked that the bully had this one-time skill. At that moment, Bae Yuk-shul caught the flying axe. This left him unable to move. He fought hard to defend himself, confused about what was happening, only to be decapitated by someone with a wide, horrifying grin. With Atao out of the way, Bae Young-chul charged at the girl who couldn't move. The expression on his face reminded her of her encounter with the branch manager, filling her with despair. Still, she was ready to accept death, thinking about how she never depended on anyone. Then, out of nowhere, the hero showed up and kicked the bully in the back of the head, rage burning in his eyes. He then slammed the brute's face into the ground. The hatred on his face shocked his partner. The remaining Japanese were left in awe. As the protagonist moved before the stun wore off, Chow Mu-yuk angrily confronted Bae Yog-shul, threatening to stab him. Only then did he realize the bully was charging a skill to push him away, so he grabbed his partner to protect her. He quickly checked on her, and she said she was fine. Bae Yuk-chul, in a lot of pain, asked the hero about the trick he used to dodge the flash grenade, which shouldn't be blockable by normal defenses. But our hero wanted to ask a question first, then decided to pull out his claws and drop the topic. Cha Mu-hyuk was determined to take down Bae Yuk-chul for good. The bully, still curious about how the hero dodged the flash grenade, taunted him for trying to act tough with his claws, just like a character from a movie. He then turned to the Yakuza, saying he couldn't stand him anymore, and warned that he'd kill him first if he came any closer. Shibata dared him to follow through, noting they were both in a tight spot. Bae Yuk-chul mocked him for his losses, claiming that tricks were pointless now. He then said he felt more confident since things were finally clear. With that, Bae Yuk-chul announced the start of the deathmatch. As the three-way battle was about to kick off, our heroes readied their weapons while the bully powered up his skills. As the Yakuza focused his energy into his blade, the tension rose. Our heroes were the first to charge forward, with the protagonist going after the ghost from his past. The lady found herself in a tough spot, facing the Yakuza alone. After their first clash, she quickly repositioned and began landing blows with such speed and accuracy that it left her opponent stunned. Feeling overwhelmed, the man got frustrated and decided to use his skills to push her back, as she taunted him for not being as strong as he looked. He was annoyed, realizing he was being underestimated. With that, both of them regained their stance. Meanwhile, as the bully clashed with the bullied, Bae Yu-chejol, impressed by his opponent's strength, asked how he dodged the flash grenade, but the young one refused to spill the beans. This made him realize his opponent was angry about his partner being attacked, hinting at a special bond between them. The bully then noted how the young one had gotten stronger and was stepping up his game with girls. With that, he charged his skill and tried to strike our hero, who dodged it. Now it was time for a counterattack. As the boy found himself taking hit after hit, he realized his opponent was strong and needed to be taken seriously. After a moment of thought, he came up with a plan and infused his sword with magic. He caught the hero off guard with a downward slash, which the protagonist struggled to block. Bae Yuk-chul claimed the protagonist was just like his other lackeys, who showed their true colors as soon as they got a bit of power. He then kicked the hero in the gut, sending him flying. The two clashed again as the brute said he was about to give the hero a lesson in respect, unleashing a flurry of blows and demanding to know how he dodged his skill. Finally, our hero decided to come clean, breaking free from the fight and stunning his opponent. Cha Mu-yuk explained that his higher rank allowed him to dodge the flash grenade, making the bully realize his opponent was now a rank 6. This was something he couldn't accept, and he felt a strange emotion, realizing that each claw strike could mean his end. At that moment, our hero landed a hit, causing his opponent to bleed and leaving him shocked that he could hurt him despite his power boost. Bae Yu-chul was stunned but focused on the fight, knowing the next hit could be deadly. So he decided to use his special skill that could temporarily seal his enemy's stats. The bully then insisted that it didn't matter how strong the protagonist was, because he was about to take control of the situation. Just then, as the skill hit its target, it vanished. The caster was in disbelief. Cha Mu-yuk explained how he had seen this coming before he stabbed his opponent in the chest, noticing how confused he looked. He pointed out that all his stats had maxed out, leaving nothing for him to steal. Now, back to the showdown between Shibata and An So-young. The Yakuza charged his blade with power and swung hard, but his target dodged just in time. Realizing how quick she was, he figured she had really focused on her speed. The lady then taunted him about his power that could take her out in one hit, saying it was too much for a newbie. He then explained that he had a sponsor. The man boasted about his time on Earth, claiming he was mastering everything with his blade skills. The lady recognized this as an attack skill, and just as she realized it, he smirked and created a copy of himself, leaving her stunned. The Yakuza was sure she couldn't dodge this move. As both copies rushed at her, she knew she was in trouble. She dodged the first blade, but got hit by the second. He smiled after injuring her shoulder. Shibata mentioned that his skill, the art of an assassin, was particularly effective against fast opponents. Explained that while speed is crucial, it's not unbeatable. The Yakuza then declared he would kill her and her partner to become number one. An So-young looked back and saw her partner fighting with everything he had. She gritted her teeth and told her opponent to grow up, saying he wasn't the winner just because he landed one hit, and that she had a promise to keep. This sudden resolve surprised the man, who had no choice but to commend her toughness. An So-young suggested they settle it with the next attack, since time was running out, and he agreed, saying he'd show her his ultimate sword skill. With that, both swordsmen got ready for the final clash. When the moment arrived, the criminal charged at the lady using the same skill as before. But just when he thought he had it in the bag, the girl smiled and moved with incredible speed, leaving an afterimage behind. Both copies were intrigued, thinking she had used a skill to vanish. The guy was taken aback by the girl's surprise move. His skills had run out, and suddenly, she was right above him, saying she hadn't been hiding at all. An So-young started to realize that in this world, points were everything. Getting good at it was key, so as she leaped down from the ceiling, she reminded herself that she needed to level up her attack to use it twice in a row. At that moment, the guy noticed her coming down from above and tried to defend himself, but it was too late. They were both covered in blood, and he remarked that her attack was flawed. In the end, he was the one lying dead, while she stood victorious. Just then, the girl thought of her partner and pushed herself to go help him, only to be left in shock. His fight had ended in his favor. When he saw her, the hero smiled warmly and congratulated her on her win. The girl, still in shock, began to cry tears of joy, feeling relieved that she wouldn't be alone anymore after finding someone special in this terrible place. Someone unique she had never known, someone like him from before. But this wasn't the end. As the bully's rings started to glow, An So-young felt true happiness for the first time. The two winners rushed toward each other. An So-young was amazed to see such a bright smile in the midst of chaos. It reminded her that she deserved happiness too. But because of that shining smile, she saw something terrifying. Just then, the bully's rings activated, causing him to vanish. She realized that the beautiful smile she cherished was now being targeted by darkness. When he reappeared, she knew it was too late to warn her partner. So she was left with one option. Gathering all her courage, she gripped her sword and charged forward. The hero was confused, thinking it looked like his partner was trying to attack him. At first, he couldn't wrap his head around it, but when he saw her go past him, he turned around. The hero couldn't believe what he was seeing. The sight of blood horrified him. Bo Yug-chul and An So-young had stabbed each other. The bully was baffled, but the girl insisted he could never hide the evil vibe he was giving off. This really frustrated the guy who tried to land the final hit, only to get slashed in the face by the hero's claws. Bei Yechul had finally met his end. Sadly, the brave warrior also collapsed, leaving her partner to cradle her. Seeing her bleeding heavily, Cha Mu-yuk desperately wanted to use his medicine, but she stopped him, saying she couldn't be saved. Knowing her fate was sealed, she asked him to stay with her a bit longer. The hero broke down in tears, saying this wouldn't have happened if he'd finished off his opponent properly. But no one expected the bully to get back up. So Min said she didn't blame him since he let her repay her debt. The crying hero insisted there was nothing to repay and he just did what anyone would do. The girl clarified that wasn't what she meant, as saving a life should be normal. Cha Mu-yuk was confused, so she shared how hard it was for her to make friends. Then she came to this world where she had to rely only on herself, which is why she didn't regret sacrificing herself. So Young then thanked the hero, leaning in for their first and last kiss. She remembered telling him how she wanted to stick with her values forever. But since she couldn't do that, she encouraged him to fulfill her dream for her. With that, she let go and smiled at him one last time, leaving Cha Mu-hyuk heartbroken and in tears. Soon after, in the dark void, the enforcer was calmly sipping tea. He was approached by none other than the winner, whom he greeted with a smile. The hero didn't say a word, his eyes lifeless. The demons pointed out that the contestant must be worn out, inviting him to sit down. It explained how it hadn't seen such an amazing final in ages. This made the hero realize the enforcer had watched the whole match, particularly enjoying the moment he and his late partner kissed. The demon then mentioned he skipped the boring parts and jumped straight to day 8. This made the hero stand up and put his claws near the demon's face. Despite its smile, anger flashed in the demon's eyes. Cha-Mu-Yuk angrily told him to shut up, saying they weren't there for his entertainment. He asked the hero if he had taken any watches, especially his late partner's, but the hero couldn't respond. The enforcer realized he had upset the protagonist, who, no matter how tough he acted, wasn't convincing. He said this with a wicked grin. The creature that accused the young man of acting like a sad hero from the shows was going to regret taking his late partner's belongings. Our hero didn't want to deny the accusation, but he argued that because of the system the demons set up to loot bodies, taking something from the dead was his only option. The protagonist told the demon to stop pretending he understood humans, pointing out how he pushed them to their limits without explaining the rules, which made the demon seem unconvincing too. With that, the creature left since it couldn't argue against him. The enforcer chose to overlook the young man's rudeness since he managed to argue even when he was mentally drained. But out here, he didn't say anything. With that, the demon decided to reward the victor by touching his mark. The sudden appearance of a chest puzzled the hero, so Karo said he'd take his time explaining, starting with the rankings. Then he snapped his fingers and explained that more monsters were taken down in round 13 than in many others, which he didn't see coming. He then touched the hero's watch and asked him to check it out. This left the young man confused, since he had over 12,000 kills, putting him in first place. The demon said there was no reason to hide his excitement, then explained he'd be rewarded with 1,000,000 points and 10 kilos of prime dragon bones, which shocked our hero. Karu mentioned these bones were all that remained of a dragon, but at the end of the day, they were still just bones before showing the hero his second prize, the chest. The entity explained it had already handled all the formalities for the random box that the hero just needed to open. This confused the young man, so the demon clarified that this reward was only for the top rank. Karo said he just needed to place his hand on it and keep it open, adding that even he didn't know what the chest held. Our hero worried it might be a trap, but the demon reassured him that the pranks were over and that his superiors had given him the random box. With that, the protagonist said the word open, activating the magic seal on the box and finally opening it, only to find a questionable item inside. This left him puzzled. But after taking a closer look, the enforcer was horrified to realize this was the extremely rare item known as evil feeling. Our hero asked what it was, but the demon was too busy trying to figure out why his superiors would give such an item to mere humans while he sought instructions. Kuro told the young man to raise his hands and demand the world to awaken, even though he was still confused. The hero couldn't see the point of these instructions and just wanted to follow them. According to the enforcer, this item has a will of its own that demons absorb to change their souls. But in humans' hands, it would just awaken the demon's will. The confused protagonist asked what would happen when he awakened it, so the demon explained he'd find out by following his instructions. After thinking it over, the hero tried to wake the will, but was surprised when nothing happened. The demon urged him to keep going, so he continued trying to awaken the evil feeling. Then the marble started to react. After a bit, the protagonist felt something soft in his hands. A cute little creature had shown up. Our hero was puzzled while the demon approached, surprised by the shape of his feelings. The creature that suddenly appeared startled him and mentioned it was its first time seeing an evil feeling awakened, since it usually just gets absorbed. Cha-Mu-Hyuk was taken aback that the demon wasn't trying to grab the precious item from him. He explained he couldn't touch the winner's prize. Karo said the furball he needed to name would follow the protagonist's will, and he'd have to figure out its hidden purposes, even the ones he didn't know. Once the awards ceremony ended, the enforcer told the winner to leave. When asked if naming the creature was necessary, the annoyed demon said it would help connect the spiritual and physical worlds. After thinking for a bit, Cha-Mu-Yuk decided to leave with his new buddy Fluffy, which weirded out the demon because of the cheesy name. He then paused and decided to ask for something more. Karu already had a feeling about what the young man would ask for. The demon realized the protagonist wanted to take the body of his deceased partner. His sad, lifeless eyes said it all. The enforcer explained that aside from the winner and his stuff, everything in the tower after day 10 would count as his belongings. To get what belonged to him, the hero would need to trade for it, adding that the prizes he won weren't enough. and he could only offer what he had. With that, the evil creature asked the young man what he was willing to trade for his beloved's body. Shortly after, our hero started going down the staircase. The lifeless hand hanging, Cha Mu-yuk was now carrying An So-young's body. His eyes were filled with rage as he thought about what just happened. Back then, the enforcer started to chuckle. Before bursting into laughter, Cha Mu-yuk declared he would wipe out the demon race, and when he did, he would spare Kero just once, insisting that the next time, escape would be impossible. This stunned the demon, who rephrased the hero's idea of granting him mercy once he became all-powerful in exchange for the body. Seeing the hero confirm it left Kero shocked, and he couldn't help but smile. He reviewed his demonic form, pointing out how entertaining the young man was. Kero claimed that even though he'd met many crazy people, the hero's madness was something he had never seen before. He was also thrilled to see that the crazy young man believed his own words. Cha Mu-hyuk immediately asked for his beloved's body. The demon insisted that the truth wasn't enough, and that he never trusted humans. But the look in the hero's eyes made him realize he was destined for greatness, so he told the protagonist to go back for him, or risk being hunted. The demon took one last sip, then tossed his blood-filled cup aside and laughed like a maniac. As he continued down, the grieving young man found himself in front of the general administrator, who praised him for outsmarting everyone in the force hunt and making it back alive. The creature was thrilled to hear the hero say it was the first time he was glad to see it. The hero also mentioned that all his struggles in there were key to his growth, but the hero wasn't interested in hearing any of that. The demon pointed out that the protagonist still had his sharp wit, only to look down at the little creature, and said it was his first time seeing the awakened Will, who was oddly cute. Its owner then explained he needed to head home first. This left the blonde one confused, so the protagonist clarified that he wanted to give the lady some time to rest. The demon was irritated by this human behavior. It told him to keep a low profile, since the sight of the only survivor from the hunt would definitely stir up trouble. Cha Mu-hyuk took that to heart and quickly dashed outside. The demon, surprised by his speed, thought the hero must have gotten a skill ring that made him emotionless, but quickly dismissed that idea. Not long after, our hero came back. The demon, surprised it only took him 30 minutes, asked what he needed. The young man first wanted to confirm the worth of all the items he had collected in the dungeon, including the tokens. But when he said it would take him a while to pull everything out, the general administrator told him he would handle it all himself. When he checked the demon, he was shocked. Besides his reward, he had racked up a total of 14,700,000 points. As the hero stood there in disbelief, the demon expressed how impressed it was, since it was the first time Iruki had gained such riches. The young man realized it wasn't time to celebrate yet, and asked about the 10 skill rings. The demon decided to check them out. When the young man looked at the window panel, he was left astonished. He now had 10 different basic skills, including fire, immunity, and emotional manipulation. But the real gems were the one-time use skills like weapon chatter and teleportation that even beginners could use. So he chose to equip those 2 skills and learn the other 8, while also buying all the available resistance skills. The demon was glad to see the young man finally spending his points wisely. With that, the 10 skills became part of the young man's toolkit. The creature then moved on to the skills he had just purchased. With that, our hero gained a bunch of resistances. The demon explained how many rookies foolishly buy attack skills instead of focusing on resistances, which cost a bit more. With everything sorted, the young man decided to tackle the most pressing issue. Trusting his master's words, Cha Mu-yuk asked for the dragon bones to be added to his body. The demon was taken aback, questioning the hero if he understood what he was saying. The young man insisted he wanted to swap his human bones for dragon ones. The creature explained that these bones wouldn't work well as weapons, and would be wasted on the Wolverine claws. It mentioned that if the hero survived the procedure, he might gain the strength he desired. The administrator admitted he had never used such valuable bones, and asked the hero if he was really sure about this choice, given the high risk of death. Still, the young man confidently confirmed his decision. This made the creature smile as it quickly got to work, warning that it wouldn't be responsible for any bad outcomes. At that moment, the hero noticed his mark starting to react. He quickly pushed Fluffy out of the way for its safety. With that, our hero was lifted off the ground. Veins began to bulge on his hands, feet, face, and neck. As he suddenly coughed up blood, the protagonist was in immense pain. The creature, amused, realized the operation would be excruciating and decided to use this as a test of the hero's endurance to see if he could handle the strength he sought. The pain seemed endless. Our hero could feel his entire muscle structure being torn apart and rebuilt. Blood started pouring from his eyes and mouth, especially when he coughed. Yet he was driven by a fierce will to survive the operation, vowing to never face defeat again. Back then, when he returned home, the young man promised his master he would come back as soon as he could. So the old man said he should be accepting thanks instead of offering apologies. The master noted how the girl who met a tragic end must have been important to the hero. Our hero revealed she was the reason for his success, and he wanted to bury her after he dealt with his rewards. The master explained how his student was both cursed and blessed by his kindness, before asking about the results. At first, the young man struggled to explain, but once he did, his master was left stunned. He hadn't expected such success, but the humble hero acknowledged he had help. The handicap pointed out that the dragon bones were still too powerful for the young man to handle, and would be hard to sell in this small village. Selling them to the administrator would make it tough to get a decent price. This item was so valuable that even in the big city, finding a proper buyer would be challenging. Seeing his master suddenly pause left the young man curious. The man asked his disciple if he truly wanted to become powerful quickly. Our hero confirmed, saying it was his weakness that led to his partner's death. Seeing the look in his eyes, the man told him he now had her way to achieve power, even though it was super risky. He said it was a method used by someone who came before the administrator set up in the tower. Despite his doubts, he decided to share it with his student. The man made it clear that he could choose to accept or reject this method, but he needed to be ready for death. The young man turned to think about his late partner. Our hero slammed his fist on the table, insisting he wanted to learn the method because he was willing to do anything for power. The teacher expected this response and revealed everything to him. Back in the present, the administrator called the hero an idiot for ignoring his warning about this impossible task. Just as he said a rank 6 was too weak to handle the dragon's bones, a window panel suddenly appeared, shocking him. With all resistance and recovery skills upgraded to grade 6, the demon figured this was due to the transplant. This strange effect seemed to be damaging the young man in every way. He also realized that the young man, aware of this, had bought all resistance skills. Meanwhile, Fluffy watched silently with tears in his eyes. A whole day had gone by, and the results were way beyond what the demon had expected. After 24 hours, all resistance skills had reached grade 1, but it wasn't as confusing as the skill synthesis that triggered. This helped our hero succeed in the tough task of improving the precision of skill combinations that merge multiple skills into one. The success rate increases with the grade, and if it fails, the involved skills drop in grade. This was a skill that needed careful thought before using. Yet this young man was using it while unconscious, which didn't seem planned. All these mysterious events made the administrator think the person who gave him the tower left out some important details. At that moment, the demon looked at Fluffy, confused and baffled, as it was using some kind of dark magic. The demon couldn't believe his eyes. What the creature was doing was hard to define, but it clearly connected to the previous events of the operation. Just as the demon was puzzled by the impressive effects of the bond between evil feelings and its owner, the window panel popped up again, leaving him even more confused. As the skill combinations hit grade 3, something never seen before on this continent, the demon knew exactly what would happen if the young man kept growing. 2 hours later, all skills created from the fusion upgraded to level 2. A skill called Comprehensive Resistance emerged, giving our hero overall endurance. 4 hours after that, the young man in pain slowly started to wake up. The demon was left baffled as the little creature continued its work. Finally, after 2 hours, Comprehensive Resistance reached grade S. With that, a surge of black energy flowed from the protagonist, who finally landed on the ground. When he landed, it kicked up dust everywhere. Meanwhile, the dragon's bones had been successfully put into our hero. This marked a new phase in Cha Mu-yuk's life. Alone now, the administrator lit her pipe, reflecting on how fascinating those events were. Back at the hut, after a long trek through the tall herbs, our hero finally made it home. He was glad about the stealth skills he had bought, as they helped him stay under the radar. The master, dozing off while sitting, suddenly opened his eyes when his disciple returned. He was pleased to see that the tough operation was paying off, giving his student a better shot at life. The hero said it was only natural since he had such a great teacher. At that moment, the man asked about Fluffy, so the hero explained that he hadn't introduced his new friend after the forced hunt because it would take a while. The teacher was left confused after hearing all this. He couldn't believe his student now had the evil feeling. The young man was surprised to find out his teacher already knew about this item. He explained it was his reward for winning the hunt, and since humans couldn't use it, the marble came alive and took this form. The teacher never expected to see an evil feeling come to life and follow his student's command. Before he could explain how casually mentioning it was unusual, the master, eager to hear about his student's journey, reminded him that he had a more pressing issue to deal with first. With his beloved's body on the table, the man shared how he took steps to keep it from decaying. He mentioned that even with just one leg left, he still had skills to help, which made his student grateful as he carefully picked up So Young. Cha Mu-yuk apologized for taking so long to hear this. When asked where he wanted to bury her, the hero mentioned a peaceful, secluded spot. With that, the master asked him to let her go in peace. The protagonist thanked the man for caring for his partner, but he insisted no thanks were necessary. He then picked her up and went to bury his beloved. Dawn was breaking. Our hero stood by the tree, reminiscing about the good old days. It was the first place he met the girl, marking the boundary of their hunting grounds. He apologized for entering her territory. He also expressed regret for burying her in the ground, as graveyards can attract robbers, promising to find a better spot later. The hero, who said he was reliable, promised he'd be back soon. He then showed the girl his claws, boasting that he upgraded them to level 1 and they were super effective. He remembered how she once accused him of swiping this weapon from a movie, which brought tears to his eyes. But he quickly wiped them away, telling her he'd be fine, and that he still remembered what she said. The hero was set on keeping his promise to take down the demon god before returning for her. So he said goodbye until they met again, and asked the little marble to tag along. But Fluffy looked over and saw An So Young sitting close by. The spirit waved goodbye, and with that, the dark feeling started to follow its master. A soft smile appeared on her face, wanting her partner to cheer up. As they walked through the woods, the young man thought about how things went down during the operation. He passed out several times from the pain, only feeling darkness and intense suffering. Yet somehow, even in that haze, he could see her urging him to keep pushing forward. The young man felt that this unexpected brush with death gave him strength, seeing how the lady faced every challenge and deserved to take on the demon god. He couldn't accept that someone like So Young was now buried, declaring that the demon race's crime was unforgivable. Later in Aspel Village, they said the monthly rent was 200,000 points, with eviction on the day of a late payment, and that requests for servants were allowed. This is what Lyratel, the demon in charge of the tower, told our hero before asking him to leave. But the hero pointed out that she was just repeating what she said yesterday and asked if there was anything new, only to get the same cold response. He started to think about how unfriendly the administrators were, considering their job was to be welcoming. Still, the hero was relieved that the paperwork wasn't too tough. Cha Mu-yuk was now living in a village, realizing that since he was the only rookie left, the clans that backed the others would be after him. First years weren't allowed to move to another village, so he had to buy an advance as a village colonist, like a second year. Even though it was pricey, our hero thought it was worth the gamble, since they had the freedom to choose. The simple house he bought was pricier than his old place and would be his base in this village. The hero returned. He started thinking about how he wanted to take the best care of his master. He mentioned that Mr. Ku was an expensive caretaker he hired to handle long trips without worrying about his master. He should drop the formalities and just call him by his name. The current caretaker looked like he was from the orc race and took his job very seriously. Just then, the master called out his student for depending too much on his dark feelings, saying he didn't need care and that his students should focus on getting stronger. This made the caretaker feel unnecessary, so the teacher tried to reassure him. When our hero said he didn't agree, Cha Mu-yuk pointed out that knowing his teacher was taken care of would help him focus and grow. So the master had to accept his student's reasoning. Cha Mu-yuk mentioned that he was strong enough now to stop worrying about spending his points just to reassure his teacher. He then highlighted how powerful his classmate had become, asking the orc and the magical item to join him in the garden. He revealed he expected his student to hit rank 6, but was shocked to see him far exceed that. The teacher also noted that the bone transplant had many perks, making him much stronger, and it was no surprise that some strange things happened during the procedure, like him gaining a resistance skill while unconscious. The young man admitted he was just as puzzled and thought it might be some sort of survival instinct. The teacher explained that having a grade 4 resistance was super rare across the continent and tough to improve on your own. When asked about his next move, Cha Mu-yuk shared he had a specific place in mind to visit. The teacher smiled at this and encouraged his student to give it his all once he got there. It was nighttime now, and our hero was lying on his bed deep in thought. He hadn't slept alone for a while since he used to share a bed with the armless man back in the hut. He raised his fist and looked at the butterfly pin he had given to his late beloved, thinking about how perfectly it suited her. Back then, he almost forgot to take the pin from her, so he asked So Young not to be mad at him, promising to return it. He was determined to keep his promise to the girl and see it through. 2 days went by, and our hero found himself walking under the sun in the vast desert. He stopped when he reached his destination and pulled back his hood. The protagonist stood in front of the fortress hidden beneath the dune. Feeling something jiggling, he realized Fluffy wanted to come out despite the heat, but he figured it wouldn't be an issue, since a first-class item should handle the desert just fine. Cha Mu-yu thought about how this massive sandcastle was known for its monsters that didn't drop rewards. Farming points would be tough, and according to the master, there was no easy way to navigate this cursed ground in Aspil. Still, the protagonist had a reason for being there. Something was starting to form in his hand. After focusing for a while, the core consumer now held a sword. The hero, who could craft small shields, thought this sword was pretty effective, even though it wasn't made from dragon bones. The protagonist noted that most monsters, like the skeleton soldiers, were labeled as swordsmen. Even though these troops were weak, they had impressive sword skills, meaning the protagonist could learn the art of the blade by battling them. Cha Mu-yuk was set on getting stronger. He remembered the vow he made to his late partner, which pushed him to dive into the cursed area, eager to find and take down the demon god.